Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff
With
that
theft of
is
a
not
firearm
relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy
They
there.
got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
Hang on, I'm not quite ready. Trying to get everything set up. Hang on. Okay, I got it. Sound up. Here we go. Getting rid of the keyboard here. It was a working lunch. Don't at me. It was a working lunch. Okay, I got a lot accomplished during lunch. Okay, I think my camera's adjusted funny. I'll just scooch down a little bit. How's that? There we go. All right. I just let some of the people who are back in chat know that I have a new command.
Is that did you testify? Did those words come from that stand when you previously testified?
That was not it. That was. I didn't realize I was playing through everything. I did save the. Let me just show you. I saved the brief interrogation of or cross-examination, I should say, of Mr. Tinsley, thinking there was going to be some amazing stuff. I put it on my little redial so I could wind it back up, but there was nothing. There was nothing there. We can play that if we want, but I do have another command that nobody has quite found yet. You have to guess it. It starts with an exclamation point, as they all do, and I think someone will find it eventually, but we'll see. I like. First of all, Kathy.
Alex Murdaugh stole it.
Who was it? DMB just found it. It is Alex. The thing I like about this particular one, that Alex Murdaugh stole it, is that it plays through several different sounds. I figured out how to put many sounds in a row. I think I'm going to get all 12 times that witness said Alex stole it in there, and so it will select one of the 12 because you can have
Alex stole it, and Alex Murdaugh stole it. Alex stole it as well.
We can have all those on here. so it'll be funny. I've got a timer on it right now that says you can only do it once a minute, but we're gonna play that as well. So that's one I'll make an exception to it, not too much, but if you want to try to use it during this court, as long as it's not during like some emotional testimony or something, I won't mute that.
Address subject matter jurisdiction.
I love the cool down message. I try to make the cool down message to be unique for each request. I figure this is something you guys get to do. I try to make it fun for you. Fake forge, that would be a good one as well. I was in doing this. I was going back and I actually found I have some other.
Alex stole it as well.
Alex stole that one as well. I have some other sounds from other trials that I wanted to make sound bites. I'm going to play this one for you. I just don't
There's a
know.
lawsuit.
I just don't know where we would use this, but
Your son just smeared feces all over my bathroom.
yeah, you never thought you'd hear that in court, right? So, straight from the Jensen trial. You almost need music to go along with that one as well, but I'll figure that one out. Let's see. We're going to be coming back to court here just in a little bit. We've got just a couple minutes, about 10 minutes. Looks like
not a camel.
Camera's shaking just a tiny bit. Red Pen's like, what?
Consent today,
Hit the like, people, before Alex steals it too. Weather Watch flipped the chat switch. I just hit it right as you did as well, so I turned it off again. We're back. Thank you, Weather Watch, for doing that. Have you updated commands lists to everything that's been had lately? No, I need to do that. That's text me. Shoot me a reminder on the burner phone.
Subject matter jurisdiction.
Sorry, I will tell you, my my amazing wife made Philly cheesesteak sandwiches for lunch, in which I put, as you can guess, spicy maple bourbon pickles on, and it was fantastic. It was fantastic without them, but with it was even better. GoFundMe, the one that was at the center of attention yesterday, is at 26,000. So it went up, it doubled overnight, basically, till now. That's the money that's going to the caretaker of Alex's mother. Let's see. All right. We might need a Judge Newman sound for sure.
Consent to that name.
We'll play with it. Anyway, so we're going to have fun. When court is not in session, I give you like it's free reign. If for some reason someone gets in here and starts spamming it, sometimes it's perfect. There's perfect timing. But just realize that most of the people here, we come here for the trials. We like to watch and listen and hear everything. And half of us are doing something else at the same time and only listening with one ear. So if it's always just sound effects during the trial, it gets frustrating. Then we'd all want to go somewhere else to listen. So just be polite during the trial and try to keep any sound effects, knowing that there's a little delay and everything with it, as good as possible. Otherwise, I'll just mute it softly. I won't call anybody out. I'll just turn the sounds off for a while. But love to hear the judge say, "Bring the jury." That's a good one, Red Pen. Can you shoot that to the burner phone? That's my memory is on the burner phone. If it's not on the burner phone, I will not remember it. But bring the jury applies to just about every trial, which would be awesome. For the GoFundMe fund.
Fund.
I'll have to forward that over to her. I do not have a GoFundMe fund personally, TW, but thank you very much. Let's see. Kathy. You won the internet. Right here. Not with this one. I think you said hey to be initially, but Kathy did win the internet today. She was first in chat very quick as soon as it was pulled up. And I will also tell you that I think she liked and was first in chat. She managed to pull off a twofer, and was able to nail both of those at the same time.
Alex Murdaugh stole it.
And Alex Murdaugh stole it right after that. So Kathy, good luck getting the internet back from Mr. Murdaugh. But you have won the internet. You're responsible for everything IP related worldwide. And so all of you, everyone who has problems with anything, be it your microwave timer, to router issues. If you need to do some port forwarding, we've got a prem router that needs some attention, maybe some server work. Kathy is your go-to for that. So thank you, Kathy, for volunteering for that, and taking responsibility, probably through the weekend. Honestly, Kathy, looking at it, we're probably not going to go live again tomorrow. But thanks, Kathy, for being first in chat. The water is fine. Everyone can come on in. No more lurkers in the shallows and the shadows. This chat is addicting. Groaning at my own pun. Ha, ha, ha. I love it. Let's see. We have... I lost track of everything where we were on the roll call. And I don't know how to even do it now when I'm so far behind. Because all the people who are here first wouldn't get named. I will still have to work on a method to do roll call, possibly something that will show up on the screen.
Alex Murdaugh stole it.
Alex Murdaugh will steal the roll call too. That will show up on the screen when you do a command and make it so they each do it once and your name just pops up and scrolls through. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I'm struggling. There are so many, and I love it. I love that there are so many people here, but it gets to be a little bit of a challenge for me. So we'll figure this out. Share Bear says, "Ready, Freddy. She is cool, but it's my nickname. My name is Sherry, and my family and friends call me Share Bear. So we'll call you Share Bear because we like to think that we're either family or friends. That's the category we like to be in." Let's see. I like the bailiff's call. If I can get that from the soundbite this morning, that would be good. I don't know if I'm still seated, but I have a standing objection. The prosecutors have padded seats. Debbie, I think they do. The front row has a little bit of padding that I'm not sure the rest of the courtroom gets. But hey, it helps when you're bouncing up and down making objections to have a soft landing, right? Dick would probably tell you that that's the case.
Alex stole it.
Alex stole that too. Let's see. Where are we at? I wish I could send a video of me throwing my keyboard out the window. I've seen a couple videos of computer abuse where people get frustrated with what the computer is doing wrong and smash it. There's a couple good meme videos out there as well. Cass says, my gift membership ran out. I'm going to have to figure out how to do this. Cass, if you're struggling, I tried to also make another one to make it easier to join. So I think if you type !join, it should give you a link that may work on a mobile device. I haven't tested it yet, so I'm just trying to see if, because people are struggling with some devices. But let's see. Being here has made my work from home job much more fun, says Ginger Meadows. Mine as well, Ginger. It's really good. This chat is hilarious. I'm dying. You guys have the sharpest wit and the quickest humor. It's hilarious. I have subject matter jurisdiction. I got this. Roll call. Are we all here? Yep, we are. Carry on. And Denise says she votes for vetoing roll call and just moving on. Chris, did you take the Harpootlian's place in the courtroom? No, I did not. It sort of looks like I'm seated where he's seated. Here, I'll go back in my corner where I'm a little more familiar. Alex stole Dick's place in the courtroom.
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?
Oh, that's sort of trippy. I swear the bourbon is cooked out of the pickles in the brining process, but that's sort of weird. I don't know how that just happened. Let's see. I'm not a camel. What just happened? Oh, I ended a DVE. Okay. Sorry, I'm lost over here. Let me turn these off. All off. And DVE inputs.
There's a lawsuit.
Why? I'm on pattern. There we go. Okay. I fat fingered the buttons and suddenly I got I'm not a cat. Like an acid trip going on. Or what I've heard an acid trip would look like. The Alex command also says something about changing lights. Oh, I need to fix that. It shouldn't say anything about changing lights. I'll get that fixed. Let me turn off chat for a minute while I do that in the background. Okay, we do have the courtroom audio on, ready to go in a heartbeat as soon as the judge comes back. So we're not going to miss anything. It should be just a couple moments before court's back in session. Let me fix this command really quickly. Did the join thing work? If anyone clicks join or types join, ! Join. Let's see. Yeah, we're all going to know what sled means after this. I can't see if anyone's tried join. Okay, Jennifer just did join. Let's see if this works. It says if the link below doesn't work for you, you may have to try joining from another computer instead. And the first one says, have trouble joining as a channel member, click here to join. So if somebody is having trouble, obviously don't click it if you don't want to attempt to join, because this might take you there. But give it a try, see if it works on mobile. That might be the solution, as we've tried to troubleshoot with a lot of people who are struggling with just how Apple works with YouTube. Let's see, which had a command? Colored lights. Let's see, it was a chatbot command. There we go. No lights change. This is a command system that works. It's designed to work with colored lights in the background. That's what they made it for. But I use it for my own purposes. And let's see, Alex. Is it still saying no lights change? The setting shows it shouldn't say that, but I'll have to tweak it and fix it a little bit. The Alex command also says something about changing lights. Well, the lights aren't changing, so I'm not sending a command to any device to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and get that fixed later. We'll have to just live with it for right now. Let's see what we've got. Marilyn, thank you so much.
Stole it as well.
Alan stole it. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Welcome to the gallery. Please take your seat. ! Seat will get you there. And thank you so much for your support. It's wonderful to have you here, and I love the pet picture in the in your little window there. Let's see. Okay, we've got this going. Yeah, I do have it set up so that Alex command can only be used once every minute. So everyone else will get the SLED is investigating another theft warning. You would have been a funny kid in class. Did the teachers resent you for it? High Speed Drifter, I've got some stories. Back when I still had my hearing in the higher registers, in my IT class, in my computer class, just to date this, for those of you that are IT related or familiar with the networking back then, all our computers were daisy chained. That was the network that we were using. I'm not a camel. So that takes you back just a little ways. But they were daisy chained together. And one of the things we would do is we would write a little batch file that would run on startup. So it's basically like it's like a program that starts every time the computer starts. And it would run in the background, and it would produce a very high-pitched tone, extremely high-pitched tone that was just on the edge of hearing. And we would do that on one computer, and then we'd do one on the other, and it would do like this harmonic wave thing around the room, and it was impossible to tell which computer was generating the sound. And we made it loud enough and at the right pitch that our teacher could hear it as well, but he thought it was his hearing aids. And so he's always checking his hearing aids and he's pulling out the batteries and stuff, and we're just dying laughing. And just everyone just pretends like we don't know what he's talking about. So yeah, I was a little bit of trouble in school for some teachers. Loved that teacher, had a lot of fun there. But it was fun. Let's see. If you believe that Alex was upset with the death of his son, he showed nothing close to that over the death of his wife. Did he have an affair, got caught, or killed to save her? Ed, there's no evidence whatsoever. I haven't even heard any allegations that there was any sort of affair going on. The closest if you want to read something into it, the closest we've heard is that the wife had taken off the ring and it was in the car. But that could have been she was do something dirty on the farm and didn't want the ring to get dirty. There's nothing really we can sort of read into that with any sort of accuracy. It would all be pure speculation. I got 10 demerit points from DMB. Sorry about that. I had fun. I had fun in school. Let's put it that way. I need to not extend my keyboard. Let's see. There we go. My mouse was roaming to other screens. All right, so here we are in court. Hang on one second.
Alex stole it as well.
The chat was off the screen. My son just responded and let me know that Alex had stolen the chat from the screen. Thank you, Kathy. It's back up. Just barely put it there. Okay. Let's see. We've got computers weren't invented when I was at school. Gordon, they had been invented when I was at school, but I learned to type on a typewriter. So the typing class was typewriters, and we had a couple of those fancy electronic typewriters that would, you could actually correct something before it hit it to paper. So it was pretty neat. Didn't she just get a manicure? You don't wear rings when getting a manicure. Perfect example, Tara. Perfect example. She just barely did get a manicure before going to the farm. That would be a great example of why she wouldn't have her ring on. I'm surprised the defense didn't bring that out, but that if they bring out the manicure, it might bring out the fact that maybe Alex was upset with her spending habits, or that she was being frivolous with money when money was tight or something like that. I don't know. Teletypes. Yes. Andy's been there. Who thinks Blanca was a good witness? I think she was, Hannah. I think she was believable. Looks like we missed the bailiff just by a second.
You may now be seated.
That's not what I want. Let's see how do I record this.
Are you all ready for the jury?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Harpootlian.
Bring the jury.
Okay, we'll have to get a better copy than that because it's sort of noise in the background. I'd like to have a quiet version with Bring the Jury. She probably wouldn't wear rings to work in the dog kennels. There's a risk of catching them on things. Dick doesn't strike me as the manicure type, says DMB. Commodores, like a Commodore 64, 8-bit bus, 6502s. That was before my time, 6-volt. But your knowledge with computers has matured a lot since then. She got a manicure before she bought the farm. Wow, too soon. This judge does seem to be more into the case than Jensen judge, but we haven't seen. I think there was a time where the judge sort of responded as if he was dozing off or not paying attention here. So there was a brief moment like that. After Y2K, our school computers all reset to 1984. I raised my hand and asked the teacher if I could excuse because according to the computer, I had not been born yet. That's awesome. My Rich says, only time my rings have come off is right before surgery. I've worn mine for 25 years.
Very good. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I please report? State calls Belinda Rass.
I'll tell you what, she's coming up. I got a box delivered to my house that said recovery addict on it. And I'm like, I don't give out my house address. How did somebody find me at my house? And I was a little worried, so I'm carefully listening to see if it's ticking, or leaking some chemical that's smoking or something. There's no sparks. I opened it up. I have a metal detector, another metal detector to test, but they didn't send the pole. They just sent the box and the coil. So maybe there's another box coming with the rest of the metal detector, but we'll give it a test for this company, see if it's any better than their first one. So this is metal detector number 7 now. I'm starting to collect them.
R-A-S-T.
Belinda, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Before we begin, Belinda, are you hard of hearing?
I am.
Okay. So is it important for you that you can read what I'm saying in order to better understand the question?
Correct.
Okay. If at any time I say something and I've turned my attention away, just please let us know and I'll re-ask the question, okay?
Okay.
All right, Belinda, tell the jury a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? And what was your professional training?
I grew up in Barnville. I went to school right there in Barnville and Hampton, Wade Hampton High School. And I'm a CNA. I worked in the hospital and home health.
All right, CNA is a certified nursing assistant?
That's correct.
So did you work in nursing before moving into private home health?
I did.
Okay. And are you now employed as a private home care, like health provider?
I'm a private home caregiver.
Okay. And Belinda, I'm going to ask you to put that microphone as close to you as you can. You might have to move it a little bit. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, well, tell us a little bit about what private home care would be.
When you work with one individual or two in a home that's not, like in a hospital or a nursing home, and you take care of that one individual or two at most, and you do their care, whatever it might be. Like when I started at the Murdaughs, Miss Libby was up and about. We just had to watch her, make sure she didn't wander away. She could go to the bathroom. She knew when she had to go, but you had to make sure she cleaned herself and just make sure she eat and stuff. And then with her, her health deteriorated. Her illness got worse. And so she went from that to now she's bedridden, and we have to feed her, turn her, change her, whatever is needed. She doesn't know when she's going to the bathroom or whatever, so we have to monitor her real close.
And I know we skipped ahead, but who do you currently provide home health care to?
Miss Libby Murdaugh.
And how long have you been providing that?
A little over 4 years.
And I think you just said it began as kind of one job, and has it evolved over time into being a more significant job?
That's correct.
Belinda, are you nervous being here today?
I am.
Okay. Would you Would you say that you've become fairly close to Miss Libby over these years?
I have. She is, to me, she's family. She's like my family away from home.
So you care about her?
I do.
All right. Well, Ms. Rast, tell me about what your typical hourly shift is.
From 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
All right. And do you occasionally work weekends?
I work every other weekend.
And what would your hours be on the weekends?
From 7 p. to 8 a.m. in the morning, or 9.
Okay.
9
So
on Saturday
for
and Sunday.
weekdays, it's typically 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And how long have you been working there again at Alameda?
Well, I've already been there 4. This year would be my 5th year.
Were you employed during the year 2021, June of 2021?
I was.
All right. On, do you remember the day, June 7th of 2021?
June 7th.
June 7th.
That's the that date. Yeah. That was the day I was called and told to come to the house that they wanted to tell me something.
Were you supposed to work that day? Were you scheduled to work that day?
I was.
All right. And what happened? Why were you not on duty that day?
Well, one of the other employees wanted to be off, and I switched with her, Miss Shelley. She had some plans with her friend, and she wanted to be off, and she asked me would I trade with her, and I told her yeah, I would do that.
And of all the nurses that work with Miss Libby, is that fairly common? If someone has a conflict, you can call them to try to arrange some sort of change in schedule? All right, so you were off on June 7th, but you would have been working what hours?
If I had been there, I would have been working. At that time, we were working that was on a Saturday, I think, or Sunday. We were working from 3 p. until, 3 in the afternoon until 9 the next morning.
Did you know Maggie Murdaugh?
Briefly, I met her, I had seen her several times at the murdered cows, but personally know her, no.
Did you get to know Paul Murdaugh?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did you get to know him?
Well, he came to see his grandparents, Mr. Randolph and Miss Libby.
Did he come more often than perhaps others?
Yes, he did.
All right, well, tell us a little bit about him.
Well, he was always very polite. He always offered to help do things for Randolph and Miss Libby. He would Miss Libby liked ice cream, so he would always say, Miss M, Grandma M, because that's what they called her, would you like me to get you some ice cream? And she would usually say yeah, because that was her thing, and he would say, get it for her, and he would tease her about it, but he always give it to her.
So he came around a little more than perhaps any of the other
of the grandchildren. Yes.
Did you get to know Mr. Alex Murdaugh?
I do.
All right. Is he here today? Is he here today?
Yes, he is. Right there.
In the blue jacket?
In the blue jacket and blue shirt.
Okay. Thank you. On your shift, from the normal shift, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., how often would you say Mr. Alex
if she can read his lips
stopped by in those years that you've been there?
Not very often, not during that time period. 6 or 7 times maybe.
In the 5 years you've been there, the 6 or 7 times?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned Mr. Randolph. Who was he again?
He was Miss Libby's husband.
Did you take care of him? Was he a client of yours?
Well, he was not my patient, but I helped him. I assisted him when he needed help.
Was there a point in time when his health became fairly poor and that you decided he needed some help?
Yes, there was.
And if you were there, would you provide that assistance to him, whatever he needed?
I did.
All right. So, was there ever a time when Mr. Mr. Randolph, do you know when he passed away?
Yeah, June the 10th.
So it was shortly after the murders of Maggie and Paul?
Correct.
Before he passed, was there ever a time when the defendant came over later at night?
When he was called, not late at night. Well, yes, there was. It was on the 6th, I think it was, the night before Maggie and Paul. I was there that night, and he and Miss Maggie came. They brought donuts.
This is new.
Okay. Why would they bring donuts?
Because Mr. Randolph had asked for some donuts.
Did you like donuts?
Well, they were Krispy Kreme, and you couldn't get them at the time in our area.
So Mr. Randolph liked Krispy Kreme
Yes,
donuts?
he did.
All right. Was Mr. Randolph, was he awake, though, when they came there?
No, he was not.
And did he ever actually see Alex and Maggie?
Not to my knowledge. Alex did go to the room and look in at him, but he was asleep, and they chose not to wake him. I told them they could, but they said, no, let him sleep if he can.
And how did he react when he got up and you told him that they'd visited?
He was, he said, they came tonight, and I said, yes, sir. And he said, that's strange. I said, well, you asked for these donuts, and Miss Maggie brought these donuts to you. And he says, well, is there a raspberry one? And I said, yeah. And I got it for him, and he ate a little bit of it, and then he said, I just can't eat the rest.
So he thought it was strange that they came that time of night?
Yeah, he was surprised.
Was there anything that, I know Mr. Randolph was very sick, but was there anything that was going on with his mental faculties?
No, he knew what was going on right up to the last time I spoke to him, which was the day before he died.
Interesting that Alex Murdaugh did not respond when that
tell us a little
joke
bit in your
was told.
experience with treating Alzheimer's patients, people with declining dementia. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with them and how
It was a joke, but just whenever on
how they maybe at night, how they rest, and what your treating them involves.
Anytime sometimes they're fine with whatever goes on around them, they just ignore it, or they speak out in the beginning and say what they want to say. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it don't. As it progresses, they get more like a baby. You know, if you wake them, sometimes they'll go back to sleep, sometimes they cry. It takes time to calm them and, just guess, because you really don't know. Like a baby, you don't know what's wrong. They might be hungry, they might want something to drink, they might just want to be turned. Okay. Whatever the situation is, you just have to guess and keep trying until you get it right.
And what time do you put Miss Libby in bed?
Generally at 8 o'clock. But now she don't get out of bed. She has a total care. She stays in bed. We give her her night medication at 8 o'clock, which helps her to rest, along with other medications she has to have.
If Miss Libby does go to sleep, what would you prefer as her provider, healthcare provider?
To let her sleep, but if a family comes by and they say they want to wake her, I don't object. I let them wake her.
Make the court's indulgence.
Yes, sir.
My name's Dick Harpootlian. Can you read my lips? Dick
Maybe,
Harpootlian?
I think so.
Okay.
Can you read Alex's lips?
And I represent Alex. Okay. Now, let me just focus in on, I guess, the reason you're being called here today. You were asked by the state, was it strange for them to show up that Sunday night at late?
It was unusual.
That was the word you used, not strange, and that's the word you used in your statement you gave about 10 days after the murders to Sweat, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Did you know they'd been to a ball game in Columbia before they stopped by? Did Mr. Murdaugh tell you that?
No, sir, I did not know that.
Okay. And if Mr. Murdaugh, Alec, had stopped by normally during the daytime, you wouldn't have been there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And
a lot of noise in the courtroom right now.
Alex and Maggie that Sunday night stayed about 30 minutes?
Approximately 30 minutes, yes.
It was late?
It was late, And
How late do you think it was, like 11 o'clock?
I think it was closer to 9.
Okay, 9.
It hadn't been long, put Miss Libby to bed, and she was starting to doze, and Mr. Randolph was already asleep.
And Miss Libby, let's say 2-3 years ago, in 2021, what was her state in terms? She has dementia, is that correct?
She does have dementia, well,
was it back
Alzheimer's
then?
dementia. It is basically the same thing.
Okay.
It affects the body in the same way. At that time, she could not walk, but we could pick her up and put her in the wheelchair, pivot her, and take her and put her in the bed, and she could feed herself. But now, she is deteriorated and she can't feed herself. She can't even give herself a drink of water.
Mentally, did she recognize her sons when they came to see her?
Sometimes, sometimes not.
And has that gotten progressively worse?
That is how it works.
Was she aware of the fact that her husband of, I think, 40 years had died, Mr. Randolph?
We told her, we took her to the funeral, but within a couple of weeks, she doesn't, it didn't seem to recognize the fact. For about, I say, a month, she would call for him from time to time, and then now she doesn't.
When Paul, while you were there, when Paul or some other family member would come over, would that calm her down?
Sometimes. Paul had a way of having a calming effect on her. He would always remind her of the past. Like, Grandma, you remember that whipping you give me with that fly swat? Things like that.
And did she watch television a good bit?
She still does, but she doesn't. She used to would play along with the games, but by 21, she wasn't doing that. She was just watching.
Okay. Beg the court's indulgence.
Yeah, they're not going to have any more questions here.
No further questions.
Anything further? Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Even if they had something against this, you're not gonna want to make yourself look like
Next
a
witness.
jackwagon.
State call Supervisory
lady that
Special
does this
Agent
amazing
Matthew
work.
Wild.
It looks like we got a pin coming up on the stand. Let's see. Alex doesn't even look at her as she goes down. I don't think she really testified anything. Well, she gives a family member a hug there. Let's see. Looks like she dragged her left hand. She's giving hugs and pats to family members there on the back row, and she's leaving the courtroom.
My name is Matthew, last name Wild, W-I-L-D-E.
All right, good afternoon, Agent Wild.
Good afternoon.
All right, where are you employed, sir?
I'm a supervisory special agent with the
go.
FBI. I'm assigned to FBI headquarters, but I sit in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
All right, and specifically, what are your job duties in Rock Hill, South Carolina?
Right now, I supervise 5 full-time agents and about 17 part-time folks in my unit, the Cellular Analysis Survey Team.
Okay, and explain to the jury what the Cellular Analysis Survey Team is.
So the Cellular Analysis Survey Team, or CAST, is a group of about 80 special agents and task force officers. We're all across the country, and what we specialize in is analyzing historical phone records, specifically the location data associated with those.
All right.
Thank you,
And
Jenny
is that something that you do personally in your job?
It is.
Okay. And explain just a little more. I know we'll get more when we get into your report, but what do you mean when you analyze cell phone location data? What are you doing when you do that?
So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the call detail records. These records are very much like the old paper phone bill we all got in the mail maybe 10, 15 years ago. They have the date, they have the time that the calls occurred, they tell me who called who, so if I made a phone call or somebody called me, those numbers are listed on there. They have the duration of the call. The major difference between the old paper phone bill we all got in the mail and the records I look at is the records I look at have a cell tower, so they tell me which cell phone tower was used to handle that call, and then they tell me which side of that tower was used to handle the call. So what I do is I take that cell tower information, I can compare it to a list of all the cell phone towers for
This
that
is gonna be some
carrier,
GPS
whether it
type
be
location
Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T. And then I can
Triangulation.
take that date, time, and general location from the cell phone records, and I can compare it to a known date, time, and location. So most of the time, when law enforcement's investigating a crime, they generally know what date, time, and location that incident occurred.
Okay. And as part of your cell phone analysis, do you also take location data directly from phones, if available, and plot that as well?
I can do that, yes, yes, sir. So when law enforcement downloads a phone, it comes in a big report, and there's a location data section on there, and I can also I can analyze and map that data as well.
And how long have you been doing this cell phone analysis?
Part-time since 2012, full-time since about late 2016.
All right. And have you undergone any training to help learn cell phone location analysis?
I have over 400 hours of training. In 2012, I went to a course called Basic Project Pinpoint, where it was 3 days. We learned how to read the records, compare the records to a tower list, and generate a very basic map. I used that technique in every one of my cases from 2012 until 2016. In 2016, I attended Advanced Project Pinpoint, which was a week-long course. And during that course, we took a deeper dive into the different types of records we can get from the carriers and how to use them. At the conclusion of that course, I was selected to go to the CAST certification course. At that time, it was 4 weeks. The first week being training on radio frequency theory, so learning how radio waves travel between the phone and the tower and then back through the network. The second week, we had we had presentations from each of the carriers. So Verizon came into our training. We learned from the network engineers. Those are the people who design and maintain the network. And we also learned from the records custodians. Those are the people who provide the records to us. The third week, we did drive testing. So I have a piece of equipment I can put in my car. I can drive around a specific cell phone tower. I can figure out generally how far that tower reaches. And then the fourth week was a moot court exercise where we had a real case. We had to read the records, generate a map, go out and do a drive test, and then testify to it. And at the conclusion of that, I was certified. Now, every year since then, I've attended the CAST recertification course, which is usually 4 days where we go back and meet with all the carriers. We get technology updates. And then because we're located around the country and sometimes in different parts of the world, we do case presentations to each other on what we're seeing in our respective areas.
Okay. And in your role as a CAS supervisor and prior, have you ever been qualified as an expert in court before?
Yes.
How many times?
Over 130 times.
Right. So you've done this a time or two before?
Yes, sir.
That's why he's facing the jury.
When you've been qualified before, specifically, what have you been qualified as?
I've been qualified as an expert in historical call detail record analysis and cellular technology.
All right. And, Your Honor, at this time, State would move to, as Mr. Wild, or excuse me, Agent Wild, as a expert in historical cell phone location analysis, if I said that correctly, sir.
No objection, Your Honor. He's so qualified.
All right. And in your role as a CAS supervisor, you became involved in this case, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you can recall approximately when you became involved?
I believe, so I wasn't a supervisor at the time. I was just I was a regular agent, but I was asked in either it had to be in July of 2021 to provide some assistance in this case.
Okay. And asked by who?
I believe it was Dylan Hightower.
Okay. All right. And specifically, at least in July of 2021, what did he ask your assistance for?
Well, he had obtained a few sets of call detail records on some of the phones in this case, and there was a question as to whether or not there was a 911 call that was made, and the tower that was using that 911 the tower that was used to handle that 911 call. There's a question as to whether or not that tower could provide coverage up to Moselle.
Okay. And so there was a question about why the 911 call first bounced off a tower in Hampton.
That's correct.
County, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Moselle, to your knowledge, is in what county?
I think it's in Dorchester County.
Or could it be Colleton County?
I'm sorry, Colleton County, yes.
And your assistance was asked to help figure out if that was possible. Someone could be at Moselle and a call could bounce off of Tower in Hampton.
Yes,
correct? And the CAS team, does it have tools that can assist in figuring that out?
Yeah, we have something called the Gladiator Autonomous Receiver, and it's basically a box that we can put in our car. It's a computer, and it has a couple of receivers in it. And as we drive around, that box maps out the latitude and longitude, so like where we are with the box, and then it measures all the signals from the cell towers that the box can see in its area. It's very much like the old Verizon "Can You Hear Me Now" commercial. It's just doing that hundreds of times a minute. It's just constantly doing that as we drive around.
And just to simplify that a little bit, it would be fair to say that this tool can do is help you map specifically where cell coverage exists and where it doesn't.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And as you move forward, did you go ahead and conduct that test?
I did. Myself, as well as Dylan Hightower and another agent with the FBI, we grabbed 3 of those pieces of equipment, 3 GARs. We put them in 3 cars. And over 2 days in the beginning of August, we basically drove everywhere all around Moselle, all the way down to Hampton, all the way up to, I believe it's Earhart, and over to 95.
Did you also go on the property at Moselle to take these measurements?
I personally did, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And afterwards, were you asked to prepare a report and to take all these cell records in and prepare a report and provide this report to show locations of various phones involved in this case?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 458. I'm going to have you take a look at it and see if you recognize it.
Happy birthday, Ed. Thanks for spending your birthday here with us. Hope you have a great one.
Yeah, this is the report that I generated for this case.
All right. And when you say generated,
would not be the same here without you.
What kind of information did you take in to help you generate that report?
Well, so I had to take in the cell phone records, so the records that were received from Verizon. I had to take those in. I had to also take in the Cellbrite downloads that came from one of the phones. And then I also had to, after we did the drive test, create some maps to kind of show and display that data.
Okay, and for this report specifically, there's a couple of numbers that we don't want read, but whose records did you look at? And for Maggie, Paul, and Alex, you can read their numbers, but whose Verizon records did you look at?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the end of your question.
I'm sorry. Whose Verizon records did you look at?
Oh, I looked at Alex's, Paul's, Maggie's.
Let me mumble the question for you again.
There's Marty Cook and CB Rowe.
Okay. And did you prepare a report showing locations off of towers where those various phones were on the days and of and surrounding the murder?
Yeah, I showed the general area where the phones were on the days surrounding the murder.
And you mentioned you got some Cellbrite data on a phone, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember who you got that location information from?
I got that from Britt Dove at SLED.
Okay. And specifically, whose phone whose location data did he provide you?
That was Paul's location data.
All right. And did you plot those locations provided on your report?
I did.
All right. And those would include times as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. At this time, State would move to enter Exhibit 458 in evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
So admitted.
All right. And Your Honor, the State would move to enter this under seal because there's some phone numbers included. I do have a redacted copy that we're going to publish for now in the jury and the audience.
Why don't you just have, why under seal? That means we're not going to get a copy of this. Any testimony we're going to have to get verbally.
Agent Wild, I'm going to ask you to step down with court's permission.
Sorry, Amber.
And we're going to pull this report up.
A lot of work.
And this is going to be a little tricky. We got some tight areas to work in, but can you stand in that area there? Give me a moment.
Yeah, you thought it was a Halloween costume. It's actually everyday wear, Ivan. Once they put it on once, it's every day.
Okay. So Agent Wild, I'm going to hand you this, and I'm going to essentially ask you to start going through this report with the jury to
Alex
explain to
Murdaugh.
them. I'm going to probably only interrupt if I feel like something needs to be clarified. You just tell me when you need to click to the next slide, but at this point, I'm going to let you take it away, sir.
All right, so the first slide here, this is just who I am, my case number, and then the telephone numbers involved.
He's giving a presentation here. It's like a full
The
presentation.
second slide, it just gives a background. So I was asked by SLED to conduct analysis in this case is the first paragraph. Methodology is the second paragraph. So again, I take the call detail records. These are kept by the carriers for billing purposes, for some other technical purposes, but I take these call detail records. I compare the cell tower data on those call detail records to a list of towers, and they tell me whether that phone is in Hampton, whether that phone's in Charleston, whether that phone's in Spartanburg or Greenville. It gives me a general idea where the phone is.
Ivan, you're like, if you can get him in some other clothes, that'd be great.
So the cell site locations, so the towers can change over time. Okay, just in the last couple of years, we've gone from using 3G to using LTE, and now we're all have the 5G bar on our phone, right? So the tower list change, the towers change, and we get updated tower lists on a regular basis from the carriers. So I use the tower list that was in effect around the time of the incident, so around the time of June 2021. The survey analysis section. So again, we took 3 pieces of equipment and we basically drove everywhere, all the way around the area, trying to record all the signals from the different cell towers. What that gives us is a general area of, it actually maps out the area of where there's coverage from those cell towers and cell sectors. And then, yeah, my conclusions, you can go on to the next one. So this slide just shows different types of cell phone towers. Okay, I draw your attention to the one on the top left. We have these speaker-looking devices hanging on this tower. Those are the antennas that transmit and receive a signal to and from a phone. Okay, a phone is very much like a car radio. As I drove here today, I tune into my favorite radio station or my favorite frequency, and somewhere along my route, there's a radio tower. It emits a signal at that frequency. My car radio can receive that signal. I can listen to my favorite station. The major difference between a car radio and a cell phone is that with a cell phone, that information has to go in 2 directions. It has to be able to be received from the tower, but you also need to be able to send that information back to the tower. So those are the antennas that send and receive those signals. The second thing about this is you'll know that you realize those antennas, they hang on a triangular shaped structure. Most of the towers are designed to cover a full circle or 360 degrees. And the way that the carriers accomplish this is by breaking that circle into 3 sides or 3 sectors. So later on in my report, you're going to see these wedge shapes. And I like to just think of the center of that wedge shape as nothing more than the center of one side of this triangle. Going on in a lot of other places, urban, more suburban areas, there's not really room to build like these big towers like this one on the top left. So they start putting them on the sides of buildings. The smaller ones will be on top of light poles in the cities. So just because you don't see it or you don't realize that it's there, it's still there. Another example of that, of course, is my favorite, the pine tree. These are all over the place, and they usually sit about 150 feet taller than all the other trees around them. But at the top, there's these spray-painted antennas, and they provide the same service.
It's actually a cell tower that looks like a pine tree.
Good. All right, so again, the tower is separated into 3. Most towers are separated into 3 sides or 3 sectors.
I think there's a test.
When I look at the call detail records, they tell me the tower number, say it's 23. They tell me the sector, say it's 1. What I have to do is I have to go into the tower list, and I have to look up tower number 23, and then I have to look up sector 1. And that tower list is going to tell me which way that sector faces. What I'm looking for there is something called the azimuth or the orientation. Azimuth and orientation are just 2 big scary words for direction. Okay, so if the azimuth is 0, all that means is that side of the tower faces north. Okay, if the azimuth is 180, all that means is the tower faces south. So what I have to do is I will draw a line at 0 if it faces north, and then I'll go 60 degrees in one direction, 60 degrees in the other direction. That gives me 1/3 of that tower, 1/3 of that circle, which is the sector in which.
Oh, just dropped out.
So I display that information using this wedge shape. So you can see this is a 120-degree wedge. There's just shaded area in the middle. Okay, just because that shaded area is there doesn't mean the phone has to be within that shaded area. Radio frequency is like, it's like light. It's like if I shut all the lights off in this room and I shine a flashlight to the back of the room, it's just gonna be emitted in that direction. That's all I'm saying by showing the shaded area, that the energy from that tower is being emitted in that direction. Good. And then this is how I map the sectors on the map. I use that wedge. Each one of these green dots on this map happens to be a cell tower. And so generally the phone's gonna be somewhere within this wedge, within the arms of this wedge, but somewhere between the tower that's being used and the next one in that direction, but closer to the one that's being used. Yeah. All right, another set of records that we can get, something called RTT, or timing advance. This is a Verizon case, so the records we have are called RTT records. What RTT records are is it's an estimation of the distance between the phone and the tower at the time that that transaction occurred. All right, so what we get is a regular wedge, like we know which tower, we know which side of the tower is being used, and then Verizon tells us approximately how far the phone is from that tower at the time that it's used. Okay, this is based on like a basic time over distance theory. We know how fast the signals travel. They travel at the speed of light, and then all we have to do is time them from the time it takes to go from the tower to the phone and back to the tower, and then we can estimate the distance. So the phone, when these types of things occur, we have these records. What we're going to have is this hot dog, or this wedge, this shaded wedge here, or this shaded band here, and that phone's going to be somewhere inside that band or just slightly inward from the band.
And would another
That was the longest
another word for that
answer
shaded
to
band?
any
Could you
question
call
I've
it
ever
an
heard in
arc?
court.
An arc, yes, yes, sir. All right, so now this slide, this is going into the actual case here. So this is showing the legend. So this is where all the locations in this case are located. Starting with the top left one, the top one, the red pin here in the center of the page, that's the address of the crime scene on Moselle Road in Island. Next is the green pin, which is Alameda. And then next is the orange pin. That's 1104 Luray Highway in Hampton, South Carolina.
It was an accident.
The purple pin is 123 Russell Road in Brunson, South Carolina.
And I'm going to stop you there, and let's
Thank you.
Let's go on to the next slide.
The shaded wedge.
And one of the things I'm going to ask you to do, Agent Wild, as you go through some of these, the colors kind of bleed sometimes on these monitors.
The jury is
so
falling
some
asleep.
the jury may not be able to read some of the place names from where they're at. So each time we go to a different map, if you just kind of provide a general orientation of where, you know, the cities are and some of the roads are.
Okay.
Just so the jury can stay with us, please.
Okay, that works. All right, so this map, I can't read the time frame on the bottom.
Okay.
The time frame is important if you can't
All
read
right,
it.
and see that's cut off on the very bottom there?
Yeah, and, but it's okay, we'll figure it out. Can I just?
Okay,
Yes,
well, we can
can
go
I
through
use
the exhibit.
Okay.
They need that timestamp. It's real crucial for this. He's like, I can go ahead, I can explain without the timestamp. Like, no, we need the time.
That's fine.
Wouldn't you like this ability to be able to just like interrupt your teacher at school when he's droning on? You're like, can you just cut to the chase?
All right,
Skip
so
that.
what's the time
Skip
frame?
the slide.
So
Next
the
slide,
time
next
frame
slide.
for this one is June 7th, 4:53 p.m. to 6:09 p.m. And this is the activity for Paul Murdaugh's phone, ending in 7845. So the blue pin is the address in Okatee, South Carolina.
Okay, and what times do you show Paul's phone in that general area near Okatee, South Carolina?
So between 5:40 and 6:03, generally in that area.
On the afternoon of what day?
On the afternoon of June 7th.
Okay. All right. And there's several hits off several towers, I think.
There's some down here. There's some at the bottom. So 453, 511. It's using the tower just south of there. And then 521.9 through 609, the phone is using the tower north of it.
And just so the jury understands, you know, this is that sector you're talking about a few minutes ago, right? So when the tower pinged off this at in this sector at this time, in theory, that phone could be anywhere within this sector, correct?
That's correct. That phone could be anywhere within that sector. It could also be slightly outside of that sector because those lines, I can't go out to this tower and look up and see those three lines coming off. It's kind of like a fuzzy area between the sectors.
So the sectors aren't hard and fast every time?
Correct.
Okay. But, you know, it's just as in your general experience, you know, within what range will you usually see a phone ping off a particular tower? What's the general max range? And I know it can vary.
Well, it can vary because it depends on where the phone is. You know, in a rural area, the phone could be 6 to 8 to 10 miles from the tower, and it can use that tower. It just kind of depends on where it is.
Because towers are usually pretty far apart out in rural areas.
In rural areas, I mean, they're set up for population density. So in rural areas, not a lot of population, a lot of farmland.
I'm getting a little shut-eye here myself.
Further apart. Whereas if you get closer into the city or suburban areas,
I realize this is important, but I do ham radio, so I understand how
as a
antennas
general
and
rule,
radios work.
do cell phones
I'm waiting
try
for the good
to
stuff.
connect to the nearest tower where they have the best signal, correct?
Well, the cell phone tries to connect to the tower and sector it sees as the best signal. That's not always the
Judge's
nearest
rule
tower,
is that
but
we
most
can't
of the
watch
time it
anything
is.
live. This one's sealed, so we won't
And
see it
so
after.
Paul's phone is in the area of Okatee starting 5:30 p.m. to about 6:09 p.m. on the afternoon of June 7th.
That's correct.
All right. And just so it's clear for this jury, we say Paul's phone, you can't testify as to who was holding that phone, correct?
That's correct. I have no idea whose hand that phone was in during each one of these calls. All we know is that was the phone that we believe he was using.
But Paul's phone is in these areas during these times?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no view of a monitor
Okay, we'll
available.
continue with Paul's phone.
So this next slide is 6:17 p.m. through 7:30 p.m. And basically at 6:17, the phone is way south down here on the bottom of the page.
And let's do some general orientation here.
All right.
What's this town right here? Can you read that?
Yamasee.
Okay.
Yep.
And this is where?
That's Barnville.
Okay. And that green was again what?
Alameda.
Okay. All right. And red, and this red up here is?
That's the Moselle.
Okay. All right. So what do you see this phone doing during this time frame starting at 6:24 p.m.?
Yeah. So between 6:17 and 6:53, it's traveling north from the bottom of the page up to the side, and then kind of to the top. And then finally, where it uses sector 1 here at 7:05 and 7:30, it's consistent with being in the area of Moselle.
Okay. And this is just a pinging in this area at 6:24, correct?
Yeah, these are just the phone calls. These are the phone calls that are coming on the phone. Those are the towers that the phone is selecting as the best tower at that time.
And this general direction seems to be traveling up north, and Okatee would be somewhere down in this area off the map, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's off to for the record, off to the right and below where this slide is. And then you see the general progression north towards Moselle, correct?
Yes.
And we see sector 3 here. And what time is it pinging in sector 3, just due south of Moselle?
It's at 6:53 p.m.
Okay. And then we see it switch over to sector 1, which is a north-facing sector, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what time is it in sector 1?
7:05.
Okay.
And then at 7:30, it uses that same sector 1 at a distance of 2.91 miles, which is in
So
the
it's-
area of Moselle.
So it's 7:30, it's somewhere in this arc like we talked about before, correct?
Yes. Yes.
The arc, the number provided by Verizon is not necessarily 100% accurate, right?
It's not, because depending on where the phone is, if the phone's out in the middle of the field, 1 mile from the tower, it should register at a mile. But if the phone's in a house, or let's say the phone's in this courtroom, those signals have to go through the exterior walls of the courtroom, hit my phone, then go back out through the exterior walls. And that might slow the signal down, which will make the distance just slightly further.
So it's generally reliable, but not necessarily exactly accurate when you see that RTT distance, correct?
It's not exactly accurate. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right, but regardless, at 6:53, it's pinging to the south of Moselle in Sector 3, and at 7:05, it's pinging in the same sector where Moselle is to the north, correct?
Yes.
And so what inference can you draw, in your opinion, of what the cell phone did between those two times?
Well, between 6:53 and 7:05, I mean, it could have moved from Sector 3 to Sector 1, or it could have been on the line between Sector 3 and Sector 1 at that time and just bounced back and forth.
But you would agree that generally this direction is towards where?
Towards Moselle.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we're on the next slide. And tell us what we see. This is still Paul Murdaugh's phone, correct?
It is. This is 7:30 p.m. to 8:40 p.m.
Okay.
So here on the right side of the page, starting at 7:30, there's those activate RTT hits at.
And that was the same from the last.
That's the same from the last one.
Slide. Okay.
Right, and then 7:33, there's another RTT hit and a call. Another RTT hit on this tower to the bottom left. And then where those arcs overlap, when they're in close timing to each other, that's generally where the phone is going to be. And so you can see that the arcs overlap in the area of Moselle.
So by about that time, 7:30 to 7:33, would your opinion be that cell phones in that area?
It has to be somewhere in the area of Moselle. Yes, sir. And then we have other calls at 8:40, 8:32, and 8:40 on here as well.
Okay, at 8:40, and it pings off of this sector at 8:40?
Yes,
is that
sir.
correct? And that's sector which off this tower?
That's Sector 1 off of that tower.
And again, same direction as Moselle?
Yes.
Gonna pause just for a second. I think that's
Okay,
good.
and what do we see on this slide?
This is
Closer.
9:03 p.m. on June 7th. And so here there's a call, and then there's an RTT distance of 3.11 miles.
Okay, and let's just do some general orientation again. The red is what? This red marker is what?
That's Moselle.
Okay, and the green is what?
It's Alameda.
Okay, and then what's this town right here?
That's Barnville.
Okay, all right, and we have a hit at 9:03:22?
Yep.
All right, and what? And it's off sector what?
It's all Sector 3, but again, there could be a little overlap there between Sector 3 and Sector 1.
Okay.
And so there's a chance, I mean, the phone's likely still in the area of Moselle, it's just using a different sector.
Okay, your opinion is it's likely in the area of Moselle?
Yes. I know for a fact that there's signal from this sector in the area of Moselle.
You have a slide to show that?
I should, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, and then here we have at 10:34 p.m. Another hit.
Yes,
and
sir.
again, this is the same map as last time, correct?
It is. 10:34 p.m. It's using the same. It's the same map. Just the sector has changed back to Sector 1.
All right. And in your opinion, that phone is still pinging?
It's consistent with being in the area of Moselle.
Okay, and now we're transitioning to something else with Paul, correct?
Yes, sir.
What is this?
This is the iPhone location data that was taken from his from the download of his iPhone.
Okay, and we have some times here, and can I go ahead one slide because
Sure.
it has more information. It shows a overhead map of the area. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And let's talk about this. You've been out to this property, correct?
Yes, I have.
And this is where? What is this called?
That's Moselle. Yep.
And what am I pointing at right here in the bottom middle part of the screen?
That's the main house there.
Okay, and then this area up here in the basically due north of the residence, what is this area?
That's the dog kennel or the hangar.
All right, there's a big hangar building,
Yes,
and
sir.
there's a smaller series of dog kennels right next to the hangar building.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. All right, and we have some location data from Paul's phone here, correct?
Yes, we do. So between 7:45 and 7:56, all these circles in and around the road and close to the kennels, that's where the phone is being used. And then at 8 o'clock, there's 2 hits down south of there, at 37 and 100 meters.
And we see these red circles. What is that red circle and what does it represent?
So the red circle is the it's the area that the phone could potentially be within. The phone shouldn't be any further than the phone should be where the pin is, but it shouldn't be any further than the exterior of that circle.
So sometimes the GPS information provided by a phone isn't exactly 100% accurate, correct?
Correct.
But it does, the phone information provides information that allows you to determine how accurate the location information is.
It's a level, it's basically a level of accuracy. So if the level of accuracy is like 3-4 meters, I mean, the phone's going to be within this general area around me. But if the level of accuracy is, let's say, 5,000 meters, that just tells me it's here in town somewhere.
Okay. All right, and we see some of those distances listed in your data here, correct?
Yes, sir.
So at the 745.31 hit, we see, and what is this number?
That's the latitude and longitude. So that's like the specific point that the phone returned as where it was located.
And then I see a number next to that. What is that?
That's the radius, so the red circle in meters.
And talking about this again, data point, what does that number say?
48.
48 what?
Yeah, the 48 meters.
Okay. So from the information side, excuse me. So from if I understand what you're telling us, is at 7:45:31 p.m. the phone is at this lat within about 48 meters of this lat and long.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay. It's all right. And then we see some different uncertainty area. So at 7:46:09 p.m. there's about 165 meter circle. So that's this much bigger circle.
Yes, sir,
correct?
it is. Yep.
All right. And then
Alex's
we see
team is
52
pretty
meters
interested in
at
this stuff.
7:56:06 p.m. Correct.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then you talk about these hits and down here at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
And we're going to advance one more slide to show the digital map. The previous slide had the exact same data, correct?
Yes.
All right.
They're all flipping through.
So we're
these,
still
watching
looking at an
carefully.
overhead map, aerial view of Moselle, correct?
Yes. This is 8:04 to 8:05 p.m.
Okay. And so now we're seeing some hits across this Moselle Road, correct?
That's correct.
And again, we see the location error value, and it's somewhere within these circles.
It is.
At those times,
Yes,
correct?
We need this map. That's what we need. He's got data we don't have. So
Okay.
a lot of this we can't plot without getting this.
Now, we're at
agreement which wasn't
8:06:20
under seal.
p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
And at 8:06:20, where do we see the phone?
So at 8:06:20, it's here on near Moselle Road, just north of the driveway.
Okay.
And from there, it moves towards the dog kennel or the hangar. It moves towards the dog kennel or the hangar, then kind of up the driveway, and then finally winding up back at the house at about 8:14.
So we see a series of location hits, correct?
Yes, sir.
And looking at the timing, it would appear that the phone moves back through the kennels, correct?
Yes.
And then moves up this road towards the house at the main residence, correct?
Yes.
And we see some circles associated with this data, but several of these circles start to get pretty small, correct?
Yes, they are pretty small.
And what are those size of those circles?
20 meters are the final ones that are in and around the house.
And just so I clarify, we see the blue pin, right?
Yes.
And that represents the actual lat long that was recorded by the phone.
Yes, it does.
And the 20 meters means it's almost certainly within that circle.
Yes.
Within that particular pin, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when you see a series of kind of rapid pings like this within a short period of time, generally what does that tell you is going on with that cell phone at that time?
Well, the phone's using some kind of application, some kind of map or something that's using its location data.
All right. And then regardless, by 8:08:45 p.m., where is Paul's phone?
It's back at the house.
Okay, and that's got a low error of how big? I'm sorry.
An accuracy of 20 meters.
An accuracy of 20 meters. Okay, and that makes a pretty small circle around the size of that house.
It does.
Correct. Okay. And there's another hit at 8:14 p.m. at the same place.
Yes.
It appears?
Yep.
Okay.
He may give us enough information
Now
in his
we moved
testimony
on.
here.
We're still looking
for
at this
location and timestamps.
overhead map of Moselle, and we have some more hits starting at 8:14 and going through to 8:35:07 p.m., correct?
That's correct.
And all these seem to be centered around the residence.
They
correct?
are, yes.
Now, there's some varying degrees of accuracy, correct?
Yeah, there's one that goes up to 165 meters, but most of them are between 20 and 79 meters.
8:35:07 p.m., that phone, Paul's phone, is within 20 meters of the Moselle residence, correct?
That's correct.
8:35 is at the residence.
All right, and we're going to skip one more slide just to keep with the digital map.
Yep.
And just so it's clear to the jury, this slide contains the exact same information, correct?
Yes, it does. And then I just switched the map over from the regular street map to the
Satellite.
Google Earth map.
Okay. All right, so now we see another series of phone location for Paul's phone. And this is again the night of June 7th, 2021, correct?
Yes.
All right, 8:38:07. Where do we see that phone start pinging?
Again, there's a 56 meter hit at right around the dog kennels.
Okay. So by 8:38:07 p.m., that phone's within 56 meters of the dog kennels, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And then we see some more hits. There's a little bit larger of an error starting at 8:44.
Yes.
But then we see a hit at 8:44:55 p.m. and it says media location. What does that mean, sir?
So in the cell report itself for that record, it came from a movie file. That's where that location was generated from.
Okay. And have you reviewed or seen that video that that location data came from?
Yes, I have.
And just generally speaking, what is that video look like?
That's the video inside the kennel when Paul's playing with the dog.
Okay. All right. And that video was recorded. The timestamp recorded on the video is 8:44:55, correct?
Yes.
And that matches exactly with the dog kennel, correct?
It does.
And I don't see a number next to that data point. Why don't I see a accuracy number?
Not 100% sure why there's no accuracy number, but we know the video was taken inside the dog kennel because we can see the video. And then the next one right after that, I mean, basically there's records just before at 8:44:53 seconds and 8:44:56 seconds, and both of those put it in the area of the dog kennel.
Okay. And I'm going to skip one more slide here. Excuse me. And we're still looking at this overhead map of Moselle, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we have, looks like a hit location data at 10:18
Yes.
p.m. and at 10:18:03 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And both those are centered on where again?
They're, again, just right there in the vicinity of the dog kennel.
Okay. Now, did you plot every single location data point that you received from Lieutenant Dove?
No, I did not. So between 8:44 and 10:18, there was a series of location data points, but most of them were between like 4 and 6 or 7,000 meters. So they wouldn't, in my opinion, they weren't super helpful to figuring out exactly where that phone was at that time.
When you see an accuracy of that big or uncertainty of that big, in your opinion, is that location something that can be, is that reliable information?
I mean, not 100% reliable because it is such a huge, area it could be in.
And, going back to the last couple slides, between then and now, between 8:44 p.m. and this 10:18 p.m., did you see any information off of Paul's phone that suggests it went anywhere but stayed at those kennels?
No.
All right, now we're going to move on to Maggie's.
So all that was
correct?
Paul's phone.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to rewind back to earlier today, and let's look at this map first of all. What is this map generally of?
This is like the West Ashley area, so just south of Charleston.
Okay. And we see some tower hits in this starting at?
Yeah, about 4:25 p.m. and then ending at about 7:05 p.m. The phone's generally in this West Ashley area.
So Maggie's phone remains in that general area until about 7:05 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Katrina, I just noticed your picture.
All right, and here.
With the tinfoil hat. That looks awesome.
Okay, this is a bigger map, so let's get oriented. What is this area right here?
Yeah, so that's North Charleston that you're circling there.
In Charleston.
And
down
Charleston just to the south of that.
here? Okay.
Yep.
And then out here, what is that red marker again?
The red marker is Moselle, the green marker is Alameda.
All right. And then we see a series of hits with Maggie's phone. You've labeled them, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And these start at what time?
They start at 7:07 and end at 7:50.
Okay. And so, generally speaking, what does this indicate Maggie's phone is doing to you?
It's
during that time?
traveling from the Charleston area west towards Moselle or Alameda.
Okay. All right. And here we have a hit at 7:50 p.m., 7:20 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And where is this?
That's right in Walterboro, actually, right here.
Okay. Right here in Walterboro,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And did you take a look at what appeared to be Maggie's general route from Charleston out towards Moselle during that time?
Yes.
And what road would she most likely have been on to travel that way?
Route 17.
And so that route would have taken her right through the center of Walterboro?
It would have, yes.
I think right out here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so she's somewhere in this sector at 7:50 p.m., probably right in the middle of Walterboro, correct?
Yes.
All right. And just in your analysis, did you just looking for a rough number here? Did you calculate a rough drive time from here at the center of Walterboro out to Moselle?
Yeah, it was under 30 minutes.
Okay. Roughly 30 minutes,
Roughly
give or
30
take?
minutes, yeah.
Okay. And this ping is at 7:20
Yes.
p.m., correct? All right. Now, were there any other, did you get any more tower information off of Maggie's phone for the rest of the evening?
No, that 7:50 p.m. was the last tower hit I received, but that was on the records for Maggie's phone.
Okay. And there were some phone calls to Maggie after 7:50 p.m., correct?
Yes.
But were any of those answered?
No.
Okay. And so you don't have any good tower information for her phone after 7:50 p.m.? Correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now we've moved on, and we're looking at whose phone?
We're looking at Alex's phone.
Okay. And what
There we
time
go.
frame are we talking about?
This is the good stuff, guys.
This
Let's
is
listen.
4:10 p.m. to 6:25 p.m.
Okay. Let's get oriented here. This is the red marker is what?
Moselle,
And the green marker is what?
Alameda.
Okay. And then the town of, what's this town right here?
Hampton,
Okay.
and Barnville is just south of there.
Okay. And we see some hits off these two towers between 4:10 and 6:25 p.m., correct?
Yes.
All right. And are you familiar with the location of the law firm formerly known as PMPED?
Yes,
All right. And is that in the vicinity of Hampton?
it is.
And would that be within these areas that Alex's phone?
Yeah, that would be consistent with the activity on the phone records.
Okay. And that's up until when?
6:25 p.m.
All right. And here we are, the next slide. And again, orientation, green is what?
Alameda,
Red is what?
Moselle.
Okay. And what information do we see here?
Here we have a number of calls between 6:40 and 9:10 p.m. and they're all using tower 159263.
And that's
That's
this
the one
tower?
shown, which faces north and is consistent with being in the area of the Moselle property.
So starting at 6:40 p.m., you see him north in this sector, which is the sector where Moselle is.
Yes, sir.
All right. So here we are. Let me go back. And these rest of these phone calls ping in the same sector up until 9:10:47. Correct?
Yes.
All right. And now, what time frame are we talking about with this slide?
Now we're looking at 9:12 to 9:18.
Okay. And in the 912 phone record, where does Alex's cell phone ping? What sector?
Uses sector 3 on tower 159263, which is the one closest to Moselle.
All right, so somewhere south or close to the border of this tower, correct?
Yes.
And then at 9:18 p.m., we see a ping off of this tower, correct?
Yes, off of 159217, which is closer to Barnville.
And it would be in the north, most likely in the north side of that.
Yes.
Tower, correct. Okay. All right, and now this is the same two calls, correct?
It is.
All right, but now I see some, looks like some shaded overlay over this. I'm going to give this back to you.
Okay.
What is that shaded overlay? What does it mean?
So the shaded overlay is the coverage area that we're able to determine from doing that drive test with our equipment. And so basically we had to drive everything all around these addresses and then go back and look at the data, and then it creates these bubbles that show us where the coverage, where the equipment saw that tower in that sector. And so here you can see that at 912, it's using the sector, it's kind of highlighted in green. And then at 918, it uses this one at the bottom, 159217, that's in pink.
Okay. And so what your drive test found is, you kind of described those neat sectors at the beginning, but in reality, they're kind of more messy, correct?
There are a lot more messy.
And from what you found from actual field testing is you could get coverage off this tower in, looks like it's just south of Varnville, anywhere in this pink area.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And that's in that particular sector. What sector is that again?
That's sector 1.
All right. And then this green area, you could be anywhere in this green area and potentially be getting coverage from this tower up north towards Moselle.
Yes.
Now, there's some overlap, though.
There is.
Those, correct? So there's some areas where a phone could potentially connect to either tower, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And
but in 2 minutes, I mean, the calls are 6 minutes apart.
Right.
So, I mean, within 6 minutes, the phone will use both of these sectors at the same time.
Okay. And just as a final point, again, the sectors aren't exactly black and white, neatly drawn, correct?
Correct.
And so in reality, like this little green corner above this tower, a phone could be in that area and still be pinging off this sector
Yes.
of the tower.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And this coverage is something that you told the jury about the drive test, correct?
Yes.
And that's when you guys went out with actual equipment to measure the coverage in all these areas, correct?
Yes, sir. We drove all these roads, and again, that equipment, every few seconds, it's recording the GPS point, and then it's measuring the signal level from all of the towers and sectors in that area. And then what I do is I go in and I can read the tower and sector that was used by looking at the call detail records, and I can go in and select the coverage area or this blob for that tower.
Blob. That's a technical term. They brought up the Diesel House
go on
fire,
to the
but
next
didn't
slide.
really chase it down at all. The witness
And we
mentioned
see
it.
now, we have some information starting at what, 9:20:34, correct?
Yes, sir. So at 9:20, from 9:20 to 9:46, there's a handful of calls, all using tower 159217, but using sector 2 that kind of faces towards the Alameda address.
Okay.
And then there's also one RTT hit at 9:34 at about 2.09 miles, which is consistent with being in the area of the Alameda residents.
Okay. And that starts that phone's
this is
within the
bad
sector
for his
starting
alibi.
at what time?
9:20,
Okay. And it last phone call on that sector is at what time?
9:46.
And Alameda is in that sector, correct?
It is.
But if a car were driving up this road towards Varnville, and I believe that's Highway 378 or 278,
Yes.
excuse me, that's still in that same sector. Correct?
It is,
So
yes.
if someone's in a vehicle on that 278 right there in that sector, you would get the same information.
Yes.
Right, so, so at 9:46, if a car has already left Alameda and we're on 278, it would still ping in that same.
It should, yes.
All right, we'll go on to the next slide. And this is still Alex's phone, correct?
It is. It's just a zoomed in version of the last slide.
Okay, so it's the same information, but looking closer, and I probably should have made some of those points on this one, but we see that road 278 here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Within that sector, and there's Alameda, it's also in the same sector, correct?
It is.
All right, and so, in theory, unless for the RTT hit at 9:34, the phone could be anywhere in this arc, correct?
It could be anywhere in that arc.
And for the rest of these hits, it could be anywhere within this whole sector.
It could be anywhere between this tower and sector and the next one in that direction.
Okay. Okay. All right, we'll go back. This is the next slide, and this is again Alex Murdaugh's phone, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, and we see some hits starting at 9:52:59 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir. So 9:52:59, the phone's using the sector with the 240 in it. So it's not using the one that faces towards Alameda yet. I'm sorry, towards Moselle yet.
Yep, and the red, and what's the red?
It's Moselle.
And the green?
Is Alameda.
Okay, so just in the previous slide, we saw the phone down here in the
Thank you,
area
Nicole.
of
Appreciate you
Alameda,
becoming a
correct?
member of the jury.
He's using that
Welcome.
tower near Alameda, but facing Alameda.
And by 9:59 p.m., Alex's phone is pinging off of this tower right by Varnville, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Which
No,
tower?
at 9:52 and 9:53, the phone is using the tower closer to Moselle, but on the sector facing towards Varnville.
Okay, all right. And then
We're going to try to show some interesting video.
then we have a
of the-
10:06 hit, 31, correct?
Yes.
The location
And do you recall
from the laser scan
what particular
while
phone
this is
call
going
was
on. So
placed
we'll
from
just
Alex's
listen to
phone
that
at
and watch
10:06 and
this.
31?
That was the 911 call.
All right. And it hits off of which tower?
It hits off of the tower closer to Varnville.
Okay. But then at 10:17, there's another hit with Alex's phone. And which sector is it pinging off at
That's
10:17?
that's using the 0 azimuth, so sector 1 that faces towards Moselle.
So that initial 911 call
First, it's gonna show a
hit off
commercial
this
first.
tower way down here by Varnville,
It
correct?
did.
All right. And that was one of the reasons you were called in to help figure out why that happened, correct?
I was, and I figured out why it happened. It's because, so in radio frequency, the higher the frequency, the shorter the distance that it can travel. The lower the frequency, the longer it can travel. So on this tower, there's 2 different sets of sectors, and one is at a higher frequency, and one is at a lower frequency. So this call here happened on a lower frequency, and therefore the signal can travel
That's
slightly
the airplane
further.
hangar right
So
there.
it's, in your opinion, it's consistent the phone could have been up here at Moselle at the time of that 10:06 911 call?
It could have been, yes.
Yeah, next slide. All right, and we're going to come up on them in a little bit. Do you have some more detailed maps showing the actual coverage? Actually,
Yeah, I think this
this is
is
it.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what information do we see on this slide?
So this is the tower and sector being used at 9:52 and 9:53. And again, this blob shape here, that's the coverage area for that tower. And so you can see that it's mostly in the center here, but there are some dots.
That's where Maggie's
out.
body was found
Most
right
of
there
it
in
kind
the
of
grass.
faces towards Varnville.
Okay. And the calls at 9:52, 9:53 occurred somewhere within this sector, correct?
Yes, they did.
And that line with the slightly shaded area
There's the feed room
represents
door.
Actual
Paul's body was
real
right here in this
coverage that
door.
you went out and measured where that phone could have been during that time.
That's correct.
Next slide. All right, and we zoomed in here, correct?
Yeah, so we zoomed in, again, now we're zoomed in kind of on the Moselle property, and just showing that there's a couple little specks of coverage there from this tower and sector
And again,
on that property.
which tower is this? This is the tower that's closest to Moselle.
It is, yes.
But you do actually see some actual coverage area right there on
Yes.
the corner. Okay. And the red is right there, correct?
Yes, the red is Moselle.
Next slide. Okay, and here we are, we zoom back out. Again, red is Moselle, and this is that tower just down south of Varnville, correct?
It is. So that's the tower south of Varnville, or near Varnville, facing north, and this is for the 911 call, again, on that lower frequency. So the signal goes a lot further. Actually, there's little specks all the way up here near Anston.
Okay, so this is Varnville, this is Moselle, and this is the coverage that you actually went up, and measured in with real equipment.
Yes, sir.
And you've determined all these shaded pink areas, if a phone could get coverage in this tower sector in those pink areas.
Yes.
And we see some of that pink area up right by Moselle, correct?
We did, yes.
Next slide. All right, and this is a 1017 beam, correct?
Yes.
All right, and it's in that sector. Now we're back to the tower that's closest to Moselle, correct?
It is.
And that's that north-facing sector.
Yes, it is.
All right. Next slide. Next slide.
Sorry, my little voice is me watching an update on the balloon up in
Here
Alaska.
we see, again, that 911 call at 10:06:31 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
That originally pinged off of
Thanks
this
for that, Laura.
Varnville tower, correct?
Yes.
But we see this is the two coverages overlaid between these two towers that both have coverage at Moselle, correct?
Yes, it did.
And you see some of that pink from that Varnville tower up right on the Moselle property, correct?
Yes.
But you see more from the green from this tower sector that covers that same property.
That's correct.
That NORAD sound was my video.
So
I was watching a balloon story on YouTube.
Next
Somebody
one.
just sent me the update. Laura did. Thank you, Laura.
And here we're zoomed in, correct?
Yeah, we're zoomed in now, and now we have both of the coverages showing. So we're showing the pink, which is from that tower down by Varnville facing north, and then the green, which is from the tower right here close to Moselle, also facing north. And you can see there's coverage from both of those towers actually in the area of the kennels.
Okay. And in your opinion, that phone could have been right in that area for both these phone calls at 10:06 and 10:17 p.m. correct?
Yes.
And that's Alex's phone, correct?
Yes.
And it does appear there's more coverage from the green sector off of this closer tower, though, correct?
There is.
Excellent. Okay, and this is just the remainder of the night for Alex's phone, correct?
It is, again, 10:19 to 11:18 p.m. And the phone mostly uses that tower closest to Moselle. There is another hit at 10:21 on the tower near Varnville.
Next slide. All right, and then continuing, what's the date on,
So
this is the next day at 6/8,
yes.
correct?
So this is June 8th, starting at 6:31 a.m., ending at 8:54 a.m., and the phone's using the tower and sector consistent with being in the area of Alameda.
Okay, so this is the morning after the murders, correct?
It is.
All right. Next slide. And this is continuing the same, this is the next day, June 9th of 2021.
It is, and same tower, same sector. Time period is 7:52 a.m. to 8:36 a.m.
Next slide. All right, and here we see some information from June 10th of 2021, correct?
Yes, sir. From 3:32 a.m. to 8:49 a.m. Basically using the same tower and sector here, just to the left of Alameda, except for this one RTT hit at 3:32 in the morning, where that band overlays on top of the Alameda address.
Okay. Next slide. And now we're on June 11th for Alex's phone, correct?
Yes, again in the morning, 3:52 a.m. to 8:15 a.m., and it's using the tower and sector consistent with being in the area of Alameda.
Okay. Next slide. And this is June 12th of 2021?
Yep, 1:41 a.m. to 8:14 a.m., again using the same tower and sector near Alameda.
Okay. Next slide, please. June 13th of 2021 for Alex's phone, correct?
Yep, first call in the morning is at 9:09 a.m., and again using the same tower and sector consistent with Alameda.
Okay. Next slide. Now we're on June 14th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what are the times? Do we see these pings?
12:04 a.m. and then 9:53 and 9:55 a.m., again using that same tower and sector consistent with Alameda.
Did you see any phone calls from Alex's phone between 12 a.m. and 9:53 that you're able to get tower information?
No.
On that day?
No, sir.
Next slide. And this is June 14th, later in the day, correct?
It is 10:27 to 12:29 p.m. Or 10:27 a.m. to 12:29 p.m. And now it's using the tower facing north out of Varnville, but also using the tower facing into Hampton.
Okay. All right, next slide. All right, and this is June 14th, continued. And does that
Yes.
phone remain in the area of Alameda the rest of June 14th, at least until 4:26 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, next slide. All right, and then here we're on June 14th.
Alex is watching that pretty closely.
And starting at 4:33 p.m. up to 6:08 p.m. Where do we see Alex's phone move generally?
It moves generally from there just south of Alameda over towards Charleston.
And that's this area up here. And it's specifically, I don't know if you can read it, but what is that there? Can you read that place name where that last tower is on the map?
Is it Somerville?
Does that say Somerville?
I think so.
All right, next slide. Okay, June 14th continued.
Yes.
And this is up in the area of the same Somerville, correct?
Yeah, this is in the area of Somerville, so between 6:08 p.m. on the 14th and 8:10 a.m. on the 15th, all the calls hit that tower and sector in Somerville.
Okay, next slide. All right, and then on June, later that June 15th, what do we see the phone do on June 15th?
It travels from Somerville back to Hampton between 8:10 a.m. and 11:40 a.m.
Okay, next slide.
So I have to admit, I wasn't paying
And now
attention.
we're on June 15th
Did he go
for
back to
Alex's
Moselle?
phone, and what two towers is his phone pinging off of for most of the day?
Again, the one in Varnville facing north and the one in Hampton facing towards Varnville.
Okay, next slide. And then June 15th, and this phone is consistent with the remaining area of Alameda during those times, correct?
Yes.
And those are 12:35 p.m. to 2:33 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Next slide. Okay, and just real quickly for these last three slides, you also reviewed the records of C.B. Rowe and Marty Cook, correct?
Yes.
And you reviewed them for the night of the murders, correct?
I did.
And in your opinion, from the information you could see from their call records and their tower information, were either of those phones in the vicinity of the murder location between 8:50 p.m. and 9 p.m.?
No.
All right. Nothing further from the state.
Let's see what they attack here.
So I'll stand for a moment.
There's Alex's khakis. Sorry about that shot. Why are they pinging his phone? Just to show where he went afterwards, I think. It would be a lot easier to see the map, what he had presented as his evidence. I'm actually a little bit frustrated that they submitted this under seal, especially when the prosecution said we actually have a redacted copy for the jury to view. So they have a redacted copy. It was only kept...
A break.
Looks like we're going to get a break. The witness is all, yeah. They have a redacted copy they were going to show the jury. And the only reason they were submitting this under seal is because the document has phone numbers of other people, like parties that aren't, party to this case. So yes, we don't want their numbers leaked. They're still using them. They're private numbers. They're personal. They shouldn't be dragged into court. But why submit?
Be in recess about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. The good judge has given us just a wee bit of a break, so we get another chance to hear the bailiff yell at us. They haven't drawn the connections for me yet. Amber has been writing. She says, my hand hurts keeping up with notes on all that. I'm hoping Amber might be able to put some light on this, but at the same time, these are data points. They're just data points. They aren't drawing a picture for us, saying that which tower it was connecting to. They really need to tell the jury and us, because we're just like the jury, only the jury has something to look at. We need to know what's going on. Apparently, the U.S. military shot down some sort of unidentified object over Alaska, or in the Alaska area just recently, which was a significance because China's balloon that floated over the country last week, which we let complete its spy mission before we give it a little splashdown in the ocean, it followed the same path, basically. I think it started up in Alaska before, then cut down across Canada, came across the U.S., and then out to the Atlantic Ocean. So round two, which was launched again of whatever type it was, whether it was a balloon or something else, which we believe were spy balloons. Round two got shot down in Alaska. They're also saying that they have, see, I don't want to play this because I'm not sure where the source is, but the press conference was saying basically that we had some planes go up there, some of our spy planes, and took some high-resolution pictures of their balloon just to figure out what it was, and we had supposedly a good idea of what it was before it went over the country, so we knew it was spying on us before we let it spy on us. So, yeah. Spicy pickles, says Andy. We want more spicy pickles.
Alex stole it.
Yep. Alex stole it.
And Alex Murdaugh stole it. Alex stole it as well.
Yep, got all of them. He got everything. Okay, here we go. We need some music or something. We've had just a stretch. Hopefully you guys are standing up and getting just a little bit of a stretch as well. Let's do some, get some blood flowing here. Katrina, they do have satellites, but a balloon is flying at much lower altitude than a spy satellite, which allows you to get a higher resolution image than a satellite can. It means a clearer picture, easier to discern what you're looking at. And it might just be, I wonder what, Mother Nature would allow us to do. How do these airflow patterns work? Would we be able to attack that way, or is this something we can use to our advantage to float something over the U.S. without detection? He stopped before getting to Atlantic. Joey awake. I don't trust who will protect the country. End of political talk, says Angie. China's trying to compete with Musk's Skylink. A feeble attempt. Yeah, the balloon probably doesn't have the staying power. Unless they've got some awesome technology. The U.S. government is going to cover the U.S. in a Faraday blanket. That'll protect us, Weather Watch. Of course, none of our cell phones will work. I guess they might work if we're all inside the Faraday cage. As long as the cell tower's inside as well, that should work. Kikiti says, I'm finally sitting down, Recovery Addict. I just filled my 75-gallon tank, and I don't have water in my living room, so that means lugging and dipping. 75-gallon fish tank, you're going to have to send a picture to the burner phone. Once you get it, all the water stabilized and fish put in there, I'd love to see it. It sounds like it sounds beautiful. Let's see. I'm a very visual person. This courtroom sucks. Rosie, yes, this has been a challenge in this court. The judge, when he ruled that basically all the graphic images were going to be sealed and not shown to the court, not shown to the gallery, and not shown to the media, and not specifically shown to the gallery or the media, they basically said the easiest way to do that is just not show anything. And so basically everything is under seal. Everything is hidden behind a box fort for all intents and purposes, and we just can't see it. Occasionally we'll get a sideways glance. We're waiting, oftentimes later in the day, later in the evening, after court's over or thereabouts. They will release some of the documents or the exhibits from that day, and so that's how we got some of the cell phone footage and some of the things like that. A lot of the pictures that we have shown up. But this one being entered under seal means that it won't be released until either the end of the trial, or the judge at that time might deem that he wants to keep it sealed. And if they don't have the redacted version admitted as evidence, there's a good chance the judge will keep this sealed even after the court case is over because of all the personal cell phone numbers, which is super frustrating. We want this information. This would really help us do our homework as we're trying to understand exactly what the prosecution is trying to get us to believe. Sent a wicked cool picture of the burner phone of our dragon, says Ivan Victor. I'm going to have to take a look at the dragon. What dragon are we talking about here? Let's see. We got one from Laura. Thank you for that link, Laura. The burner phone is responding very slowly. Got a lot of pet pics. Yeah, Amber, I don't know. I don't know if this is something you'd be able to run with. The burner phone is not updated with your picture for some reason, Ivan. Let's give it a quick check here. Let's see. It has not come through for some reason. Don't know why. It might be overloaded. You got the bingo and balloon watch. Nice, TW. I did not have that on my card today. How do I tag in chat? Does it have to be on a computer?
Alex stole it.
Alex stole it. Goodman Law, Nicole, you have to type the @ symbol and then start typing their name. And I think you have to type the full name if you're on the phone, exactly as it appears. On a computer, as you start typing it, will sort of pop up and suggest a name. You can click on it and it will auto-populate that way. But on a phone, it's a little bit more difficult that way. Thank you, by the way, for becoming a member of the jury. Appreciate having you with us here, Nicole. Let's see. I need to clean out my phone. Bite me. It's growing rapidly. I don't know what to do. Ivan sent it again. Let me check. Let's see. I'm getting ambers. It's not coming through.
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction? Let's see. The last one I got from you, Ivan, was Thursday.
Alex stole it as well.
Alex is stealing your text to me. Is Matthew Harris Law here? He was here a minute ago, I think. Let's see. We have Weather Watch.
I'm not a cat.
He's had some client meetings because he actually has to work. Poor Sap. Poor Sap actually has to work during the day. Let's see. I don't see him recently, so it's been. He's probably out doing some real work, doing some lawyering or arguing in court. He's had a couple client meetings back to back, so he might be wrapping that up. Not working on mobile, moving to the computer. Thank you, Ari, for making me feel so welcome. Nicole, thanks for being here. Love your commentary and just the insight you can provide. Can't wait to have you or your hubby on providing some analysis at some point. La 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 la. Love the name. Monday we'll hear of a third balloon being shot down. Is there going to be like a whole fleet of balloons? At some point, China's going to be like, hey, we can launch this balloon that costs us $500, and the U.S. will take off with a $3 billion plane and shoot a $55,000 missile at it. We can bankrupt the country because, just on math, it's we're spending a lot more popping their balloons than they're spending launching them, I think. Got to do a Tinsley sound effect. Which one, Natural Empress, would be the best sound effect for Tinsley? Tingly Tinsley. I'm not a spa balloon. The funny thing I thought we heard out of China of this whole thing was when the balloon first appeared, they're like, oh, that was just some private guy's weather balloon type thing. And then we shot it down. They're like, we'd like our spy stuff back. Nope. I'm not going to do that.
Alex stole it.
Alex stole it. Can't give it back to you because Alex stole the balloon. Weather Watch, do you know how many feet above sea level a person lives at? How do you know how many feet above sea level? I can tell you that I live about I think it's 40 or 60 feet above sea level. And I'm an hour and a half from the ocean. Okay. Just got it. Just got a picture here. Came through on Twitter, Ivan. This is a chameleon, right? It's got like the two-toed color-changing lizard. I think it's a chameleon. Tag's like, where's my peeps? I have too many choices. You sent me that video, Tag, with all those peeping sounds. I need like 3 or 4 choices to choose from. I just don't know which one to record and import in. And we could get a little peep sound going. At some point, we'll just launch a satellite to laser pop it. I imagine Musk's probably going to be stepping up. It's like, hey, I've already got the technology up on all those satellites. I can just point a few lasers at it. And did you guys see out of Hawaii? There was some news. I'm not sure if this has been debunked or not. That there was basically green lasers shining down from something floating over Hawaii, whether it was a satellite or a balloon. I'm not sure what. But there's a couple images from a security camera showing a laser scanning across an area from the sky. I think the easy solution is that we just get the coordinates of their balloons and then everyone gets their lasers and points them at the balloon, because that can damage the sensitive optics on the balloon. I should know that because it's against the law to do it, to shine a laser at satellites and things like that. Especially airplanes. Don't do that. Don't do that. Airplanes, helicopters, that can literally, it can kill people because it blinds them and then they crash. But probably why there's a helium shortage. China's used it all for their balloon. Weather Watch is cautiously responding to Golden Girl. Are you setting him up for a joke, or is this a real question? You've learned, Weather Watch. You have to tread carefully in here in chat. All right. Got the bearded dragon. I see it here. Bite Me says, I'm still waiting on my bite me command.
I'm not a camel.
Let's see. Maybe one with more than one chick peeping, because all my peepers here are not just one. I think I'm going to have to get... I need to have clean audio. Like, there can't be any car noise or anything in the background, because it makes sense when we watch it, because our brain, like, if we hear audio and watch video, our brain puts it together. And even if there's background noise, we just explain. It's like, oh, they're next to a road type thing. But if we're just hearing the audio, when it comes in, it's like suddenly road noise and chickens or something like that. So I have to get a really clean audio sample of that tag, and then I'll see if we can make peeps for you. Because peeps, people have adopted peeps since you started using it. So we'll see if we can get a little chirp chirp peeps.
And now Alex Murdaugh stole it.
And that Alex Murdaugh will steal that one as well. You saw them over Maui. Maui Bell saw the lasers over Maui, or they were seen over Maui. Did you see them personally? Sound bites are awesome, especially during the breaks when it's a little bit slow and we're all just trying to stretch and wake up. This is good. We try to keep it quiet during the testimony, and you guys have been good. You guys have really been good with that. I understand the balloons have been coming over for 5 years. I have heard that this is not the first of the balloons. A tinfoil tiara is hilarious. I think a balloon and a bite me would be great, says Kaz. All right, thanks, Tag. We'll look for that. Sunshine Sunflowers, am I tripping out, or did you just change the font on your name? I think she changed the spacing. Took out the and made it all caps. Is the font actually changed as well? I don't see a different font on my screen. You saw them. You saw the lasers. Was it a satellite? Was it a balloon, Maui Bell? I know there's some video online. You can see it on Twitter and places like that show it. I wonder how fast it was moving, like left to right, up and down type thing. It was definitely a satellite. Man. So now they have a laser scan of Maui. Their next vacation over here, they know exactly what elevation to go to. Tag says, almost forgot because I've been so busy today. Shout out to JB. Shout out to JB. Hello, JB, up north in Canada. We just saved you guys from another China balloon. We shot it down over Alaska, JB, so you don't have to worry about it. I know we could probably count on you to shoot it down if needed for us, but we took care of it this time, so thank you. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a Chinese weather balloon, it's a green laser. Nope, it's nothing because Alex stole it. On top of Hakala, man, Maui Bell, I'm trying here. Halekala, the mountain I live on. Is it Halekala? That's my best bet at pronouncing. I won't do any better than that, even with a pronunciation guide. I can clock out in just a few seconds. Sunshine Sunflowers, I will tell you that some of you here might know what the 59-minute rule is. Raise your hand if you know what the 59-minute rule is. I'm just curious. I'm not going to out people, but
Alex stole it as well.
Yep, he stole the 59-minute rule. I'm going to see if I can get all 12 Alex stole it variations on that soundbite, because then it will randomly just select one when it plays. Laura knows what the 59-minute rule is. So it's funny when people say I can check out, I can be gone in 1 minute type thing. Because those people that understand the 59-minute rule know that that some people go home 59 minutes before their day ends on certain days. Raise your hand if you know, and then you know. All right. I think we're waiting for court to come back here. I think the 10 minutes are up. Suzanne's listening with my eyes closed. That's dangerous for me, Suzanne, because I don't know what it is. Maybe I have just a clean conscience, or I don't know what. But when I lay down, if I close my eyes, I can be asleep in seconds. It's just, I've never really had a problem. I mean, occasionally I've had a tough time falling asleep, but it's like once or twice a year type thing. Usually I can close my eyes just about anywhere, and I'll be in La La Land just in moments. If you see another balloon, give the bat phone a call, JB, says Tag. Vixen's going to take 59 today. All right, so Vixen's clocking out just a little bit early. When you're the boss, every day is a 59-minute day, says Ivan. I've dozed off at least 3 times today, says Cachette. This stuff was interesting. I want to hear this information, this data. I really want to get all this, but I need the graph. I need the maps. It's not going to do any good to just hear the cell towers when we don't know the location and the range, the actual pinpoint where the tower put it, and how far the accuracy number is. We need to see those numbers. We need to see those graphs. So hopefully those will get released. Maybe the judge will release it, but under
Alex
seal.
stole it as well.
Under seal. I can fall asleep on a dime, but wake up when RA is going live. Random numbers and coordinates are beyond useless. I agree, Ivan. I think I will say I've done what's called fox hunts with ham radio, where we can use even very rudimentary equipment. We're talking literally a paper clip as an antenna and using our body as a shield, and we can triangulate the position of a transmitter that periodically transmits using a handheld walkie-talkie, just by listening. So the technology is there, and more advanced stuff as well is possible.
They bring the jury.
Do a verdict poll or a poll on how successful we think the prosecution has been so far. I think I was going to hold off on the verdict poll. I've been trying to not do them until we hear the defense. It's so hard because it's been so long. Suddenly, Ivan, all the dragon images are coming through. So the burner phone is catching up. Do you know if son will be a witness? I think the son will be a witness. I dreamed I was hanging out with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, last night. He was very concerned about the price of everything, as if he was on a very low budget. I don't know where these dreams come from. That's funny. I've turned soap into a compass. Hey, that's almost the same. It's science, Ivan. It's science. It works. I love all these other Alex Five Finger Klepto. You guys are great. Okay, where are we at? I don't remember who's on the stand. Did we get? Oh, we still have.
All right,
we still
you.
have the same witness talking about the cell phone pings and locations. May need a second burner phone. I could be like Alec and have one up to each ear.
Mr. Barber.
Good afternoon, Agent Wild.
Good afternoon, sir.
I don't think I'll have many questions. This won't take long at all. We were looking at a lot of maps, and they had a lot of timestamps, and I think they're referred to as pings sometimes.
They're not pings.
What are they?
They're activations on the record. So whether they be incoming or outgoing phone calls, or those RTT activations, which are slightly different. Or the other things with Paul's phone, those are like the iPhone location data records.
But we're looking at calls, text messages. Would a text message always make one of those timestamps?
Now, so on Verizon, which all the phones in this case were, with Verizon, we're not going to get call detail record. We're not going to get location data with the text messages, just the way they're designed.
Okay. And I just wanted to be clear when we said that there weren't any more calls coming into Maggie Murdaugh after 7, that there were some text messages, but if there were, they wouldn't show up.
Correct. They wouldn't show up in her call detail records with cell tower information.
Dallas Born, I use Google.
What would it look like
Google
on these
Voice.
maps if a call, well, let me ask this, do calls hand off between towers while they're still going on?
They do.
And what would that look like on these maps?
So it would look the same way it looks now. So again, when the call, before the call's even set up, so if my phone was on in this room right now, my phone is constantly scanning the environment. It's trying to find the tower and sector with the strongest signal. Okay, it's very much like sitting at the airport trying to find the best Wi-Fi to connect to while you're waiting on your flight. So what happens when a call hands off between towers during a call is the records look like they look. It's still going to show the initial tower and sector that the phone saw as the best tower and sector at the time the call occurred. And then after that, let's say the call is an hour long and I drive from here to Columbia, I'm going to hand off tower to tower to tower, but on Verizon, I'm not going to see that handoff in the records.
Right, and that I guess was my question, is you're just going to see that first tower, so if you're handed off like tower 1 to 2 to 3, you're not going to see on the same calls hits on towers 2 and 3 on this map.
Correct, you're only going to see the initial.
And do the coverage areas intentionally overlap to some degree to allow for handoffs?
Yes.
And we saw GPS data for Paul Murdaugh's phone.
Yes.
Did you have any GPS data for Maggie Murdaugh's phone?
I did not. There was nothing in the location database for the time period that was in question.
Do you know why that was?
It's either something Paul was running on his phone that generated it, or a lack of something that Maggie wasn't running on her phone that did not generate it. I really don't know the answer.
I mean, so the answer would be that you don't know.
I don't know. Yes, sir.
And what about Alex Murdaugh's phone?
There was nothing during the time period.
See you, Debbie.
So,
thanks for being here. Good luck.
You mentioned that you've testified as an expert in, I think, over 100 cases?
Yes, sir.
And some of those other cases, were you able to show phones moving together?
Sometimes we are, yes.
Were you able to do that in this case?
I did not do that in this case.
When you were doing the drive around to create that sort of coverage map, did you go onto the Moselle property?
I did.
Was that with the consent of Alex Murdaugh?
Yes, I believe so.
Could we pull up slide 35? Can you see the screen?
I can.
And I think the previous testimony was that this 10:06:31 call was the 911 call?
Yes.
I just want to ask about that timestamp because we heard from someone from the FBI yesterday the 911 call was actually placed at 10:06 and 18 seconds. So what would account for the 13 seconds difference between the two?
I guess it depends on the records you were looking at. There might be a slight offset between the records the other person was looking at and the records I was looking at.
And the 911 call center, of course, would have a timestamp on incoming calls.
Correct.
Right. Have you ever seen cases where there's a few seconds difference between those timestamps and this kind of records and what the 911 center might have?
Yes, sir. I mean, there's a difference between when you press the green button, and it usually takes a couple of seconds to connect on the other side.
The infamous green button.
And could we, on the Elmo, go to slide 56? And the reason I would like to do this on the Elmo is I think that the presentation was cutting off the bottom of the screen.
It was.
And This, can we see the top so we can kind of get context for what this is?
Can someone clip that?
Just,
if you've got,
slide it down.
I need to hear the question. If they can clip that and send that to me, that would
So
be the easiest.
this was
I need a second
Alex
or two
Murdaugh
before to a second or two
information,
after.
and this was on June 15, 2021, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you know that was a Tuesday?
I don't.
Can we scroll in so we can see the bottom? It says that activity after 2:33 p.m. indicates travel to Somerville. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any data after that? Is that the end of the data that you have regarding Alex Murdaugh?
Is that the last slide?
You have
Okay.
the slide. So this is slide 56 that we're looking at.
Yeah, there was other data after that.
And do you have location data for Alex Murdaugh after June 15?
I think so. I think
in this report?
Not in this report.
So in this report, I'm sorry because that's what we're looking at here.
Yes, sir.
Because I understand, of course, you have cell phone records. He kept using the cell phone, obviously, after the 15.
Yes, he did.
But for what's being presented to the jury, the last entry is, I'll represent, Tuesday, June 15, is the end of what you have.
Yes, it is.
And he's going to Somerville.
Yes, sir.
And finally, there last 2 or 3 slides, we don't need to show them. There was some information for some other people, a C.B. Rowe, a Marty Cook.
Yes, sir.
Why were you looking at information for them?
I was requested to look at the information for them for the night of the incident.
Were you requested to ever look at information for an Eddie Smith or a Spencer Roberts?
Eddie Smith sounds familiar, but I'm not sure about Spencer Roberts.
Okay. Did you look at information regarding Eddie Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have that information with you?
I do not.
You do not have the information?
I don't have it with me, no.
Beg the court's indulgence.
He's like, oh, interesting, because we have it. Here comes Cousin Eddie. Uncle Eddie. The screen is projected on. It's called the Cookie Monster. They've got Sesame Street names everywhere. I want to do this on the Elmo because it tickles my fancy.
No further questions, Your Honor.
By the state.
Briefly, Agent Wild, you were asked by Mr. Barber whether you've been able to pinpoint 2 phones together in other cases, correct?
Yes.
Generally speaking, what kind of data are you using when you have been able to pinpoint 2 phones together at the same time?
I mean, first of all, the 2 phones have to have activity around the same time. So we'd have to have calls at 9 o'clock on one phone and calls at 8:58, 9 o'clock on the next phone. That's the first thing we'd have to do. Second thing is it'd have to be indication the phones are traveling together or stationary at the same place at the same time.
Okay.
Sounds like a Plants vs. Zombie reference, Beautiful Waterfall.
After 7:50 p.m., was there any Verizon location power information provided by Verizon?
There was not on Maggie Murdaugh's phone. There was not.
So you wouldn't be able to provide any opinion as to whether her phone was near any other phone in the world after 7:50 p.m., correct?
That's correct, because there's no data to compare it against.
Okay.
Are we done?
That's
Anything
perfect.
else? We're done.
Yes, sir.
Wait for it. Beg the court's indulgence.
Other questions, Your Honor?
Okay, we're going.
Thank you, sir.
Love that game.
And next witness.
I can play through the entire game several times.
State calls Nathan Tuten.
Nathan, does he have a pin? I do not see a pin. He's like, ladies first. Sounds polite.
Raise your right hand, left hand on the Bible. Do you affirm the testimony about the report in this trial shall be the truth, so help you God, and to take seat in the witness stand?
It's just the truth. There, she didn't say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They just want the truth.
State your name again for the record.
Nathan Tuten, Tuten.
No truth to the rumor that he's wearing
Hey,
Mark
good
Tinsley's
afternoon. How you
suit.
doing?
Not true.
Good, how about you?
Doing well. Why don't you tell this jury a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school. Start there.
I'm from Hampton, South Carolina. I graduated from Wade Hampton High School in 2018. I have a degree in criminal justice from University of South Carolina and graduated in 21.
And Nathan, it's hard to pick up you on the mic, so if you would, I know pull it as close as you can and just try to speak into it so we can all hear you. Okay, so I think you said you graduated high school 2018. You got a degree from where?
University of South Carolina.
And what field was it in?
Criminal justice.
Okay.
Criminal justice.
And what year did you graduate USC?
21.
And what do you currently do for a living?
Law enforcement officer.
Okay, with what organization?
Walterboro Police Department.
All right. And describe your job responsibilities. What do you do as a Walterboro police officer?
I enforce the laws of the state and serve and protect.
You work in road patrol right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Nathan, growing up in this area, were you childhood friends with Paul Murdaugh?
That's correct.
When's the first time you met Paul?
Lifelong friends. Very young age.
Alex Murdaugh.
Growing up in Hampton, knew him as a kid?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about Paul. What do you remember about him? Tell us the kind of guy he was.
Paul was the definition of a good person and a good friend. He's very loyal, salt of the earth kind of guy, and would do anything for you at any given moment, no matter the time.
What were kind of things that you all like to do together?
We like to hunt, fish, really just hang out with friends.
Was Paul the kind of friend that you'd kind of call a reliable friend?
Absolutely.
All right. Was he the kind of kid that would be there for you if you needed help with anything?
Absolutely.
DMB.
Did you spend a lot of time together with Paul through the years?
I did, yes, sir.
Did Paul have a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Did he like to use his cell phone?
Yes, sir.
How would you describe it?
He was on his phone all the time.
In addition to being on his phone all the time, was he the kind of guy that if you needed something or reached out to him, he was going to respond back to you?
That's correct.
Was he going to call you back if you called him if he missed the phone call?
Yes.
And would you expect him to pick up if you called him?
Yes.
All right. Did you get to know Maggie also?
I did.
All right. Tell us a little bit about her.
Maggie was probably one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met in my life. She always looked out for Paul's friends and was a second mom to me.
And having spent a lot of time with Paul, did you also spend a lot of time with Maggie?
That's correct.
And then did you also get to know Alex?
I did.
Dad. Okay. And is Alex here today?
Yes, she is.
Can you tell me where he is?
He's sitting at that table wearing a blue jacket.
And did you get to know him very well?
I did.
Through the years. Did you know the family before they moved their primary residence out to what we call Moselle? Did you know them before then?
I did.
Okay. Were you there when they moved or obtained Moselle and started using that as a residence?
I was.
All right. When Moselle was first constructed, how many entrances and exits were there?
Just one.
And which one was that?
That was the one by the cabin, or one that leads into the sheds.
Okay. And the sheds is that the dog kennels in the hangar area?
That's correct.
And the cabin I think you referred to, is there a cabin on the side at the front of that entrance?
That's correct.
Okay. And who put the mailbox in there?
I believe Miss Maggie.
And tell us about that cabin. Tell us where it's situated and why you know so much about it.
My freshman year of college, Paul and I actually lived together at the cabin.
So it's like a small house, basically.
That's correct.
And where is it situated in regards to the hangar area?
A little bit closer to the highway.
How many feet or how far away?
100 yards, maybe.
And so you lived there, I think you said, for the summer?
Just a semester.
A semester?
Mm-hmm.
All right. How would you describe yours and Paul's friendship? How often would you guys communicate a day?
Just about every day. Every other day.
Phone calls?
That's correct.
And texts?
Primarily phone calls.
And later in life, did Paul go to school?
He did.
Where did he go?
USC.
And that's located where?
Columbia.
And did you see him whenever he would come back into town?
I would.
Would he come back frequently?
No, sir.
At the college level? At the college years?
No, sir.
When would you see him? Would you see him in the summers when school was out?
Good bit.
All right. And I think you mentioned before y'all did a lot of fishing and a lot of hunting. Are you familiar with firearms in general?
I would say so.
Did Paul have any
brag,
guns that he favored? Ones that he kept on him and kept with him most of the time?
He did.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about, however you want to describe those two guns.
The two guns that were with us most of the time was a black 300 blackout and a camouflage 12 gauge Super Black Eagle 3.
And the black 300 blackout, what was that firearm used for primarily?
Anything.
Okay. Did you use it for hunting?
I did.
Okay. What would you hunt with that gun?
Anything.
Everything.
Did it have the scope? I think you said there's a scope on the top or some sort of sight. How would you describe that?
As thermal scope.
Meaning you could see heat?
That's correct.
Okay. And describe the Benelli shotgun that you just mentioned also. What did it look like, and how did you know it was Paul's?
It had a very distinct digital camouflage pattern, and he had a gun strap that he's used since I've known him, and that's what stayed on that shotgun.
Do you know the differences between, so we hear, Benelli Super Black Eagle models, and then I think we've heard 3 and 2 and 1. Do you know the differences between the various models?
I do.
Okay. So when you look at it, they have distinctive features on them that would tell you whether it's a 3 or a 2 or a 1?
Very subtle differences, but yes.
But you feel comfortable that
Weather
you know
watch.
the difference?
I'm not even going to click on that.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
He's got a heavy Southern accent, a drawl.
Entered in evidence as State's Exhibit 88.
Hey, we get another firearm exhibit. Let's see how we do. Oh, this is the blackout, 300 blackout.
Permission to approach the witness.
Permission to approach the
Nathan,
witness.
I'm handing you what's been marked and entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 88. You feel comfortable taking this for a second and now tell me if you know what it is?
I do.
Okay. There you go. Be aware of the muzzle.
This is Paul's rifle.
And you know that because you've used this a bunch of times?
That's correct.
Tips threaded for a silencer, but they didn't have the silencer on it because he never filled out the paperwork.
And I'll also now show you what's entered into evidence as State's Exhibit number 4. Is this one? This is State's Exhibit 4. Do you feel comfortable taking a look at this for me for a second and let me know if you know which firearm this is?
I do.
All right.
No, the safety's off.
Hang on, it's in there. Thank you.
This is Paul's shotgun.
How do you know?
I've used it several times in distinct camouflage pattern along with Paul's gun strap.
This strap in particular is Paul's?
That's correct.
How do you know this is a Model 3 Benelli Super Black Eagle?
Well, would you like me to explain?
Absolutely.
So there are a few subtle differences. One being the forearm grip. The Super Black Eagle 3 has a slight flare or increase in curve. Another difference would be the trigger magazine port has an indention that allows you to insert shot shells easier. The Super Black Eagle 2 and previous models don't have that. Another difference would be the button that releases the bolt, which makes the weapon operable. The previous models, being the original and number 2, are circular, whereas this one is more rectangular. I mean, the easiest way to tell the difference is they're labeled 2 and 3.
And there's a big sign on the side that says 3. Knows his stuff. He's used these guns a lot. Very familiar with them. That's what we got so far.
Show you now what's been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 91. You feel comfortable handling this gun for a second? Let me know if you recognize what it is.
I do.
It's like, are you okay holding guns? This guy's a police officer. He shoots his firearm regularly. He's trained in how to use these.
Do you recognize what this gun is?
I recognize that as Buster Murdaugh shotgun.
Okay. What model is this?
Super Black Eagle 2.
And you know it's a 2 because of the other features you just mentioned and pointed out for the jury?
That's correct.
Would you do that again? Tell us why you know that's a 2.
Like I mentioned earlier, the slight flare on the 3. This one is straighter and more narrow. Does not have the indentation for the magazine port, and the button is circular.
I want to hear the police cars already.
You said it was Buster's shotgun. How do you know that?
The Mojo sticker on the barrel.
I'm not sure where they're going with this one
at the top
yet.
of the barrel there?
That's correct.
Familiar with it. Mojo.
That's correct.
Did Alex have a gun that he favored, a shotgun?
He did.
What was one that he favored?
That was a Super Black Eagle original black shotgun.
He comes across as neutral to me.
Are you familiar? Did Paul have a 300 blackout rifle prior to the black one you just identified?
That's correct.
All right. Were you familiar with what happened to that firearm, the original one?
I am.
All right. Tell us the story.
It was a party, and there was a black 300 blackout and a tan 300 blackout. And he had the tan one, and it got stolen from a party one night.
Speak up.
It was stolen from a party one night.
You know what year that was? Approximate year?
I'd say early 2018.
I don't doubt this story. I really think the gun was stolen.
Our firearm that was stolen was what color again?
Tan.
Tan.
Whoever stole it is out there who went, oh crap.
All right. At what point in the Mizell property was what year, approximate year, was the second entrance created? That one with the brickwork.
I'm not sure.
It was a few years though after they'd owned the property. The family had owned the property.
That's correct.
Was it common to use either entrance by the family to leave and enter the property?
Yes and no.
All right, we'll explain.
Just depends which side
Paul
you're
and I
coming
would
from.
use, and friends would use the entrance by the sheds more, whereas Alec and Maggie would use the main gate entrance more.
If you all, and let me ask you, what were the, before we get to my next question, what the hangar area with the kennels, are you familiar with it?
That's correct.
Could you describe to the jury just the very basic layout of that area?
It was kennels as you were riding into the driveway. The kennels would be on your left. The shed or hangar would be directly on your right. There was another shed that they had built in front of the hangar, and there was a skinning shed for animals out back to the right.
And would you spend a lot of time down at the hangar area and kennel area?
We would.
Why would y'all hang out there? Why was that the kind of the collection place?
It's just a central location where everything was located.
Tools?
Correct.
And farm equipment?
Correct.
If you all were spending time down at the kennels and someone was leaving the house, would it be common for them that someone, whether it's, Alex or Maggie, to stop by on their way out, leaving the property?
Yes, sir.
That would be what would normally happen?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to play what's been marked.
No, yes, and yes on this one, high-speed drifter.
I'm going to show you what's been not marked, but entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 297.
I don't currently have
a little screen there. If you wouldn't mind
magnification.
watching that for
I
me.
have found a weapon, and I did turn it over to police.
And listening.
This could be the dog kennel video, I think.
Get that! Get that! Quit, Cash. Come on. Quit. It's okay. Come here. Come here, Cash. Shit. Come on. Hold still. Cash. Hey, he got a bird in his mouth. Hey, Bubba. That's a guinea. This is a chicken. Come here, Bubba. Come here, Cash. Come here, Bubba. Cash. Quit.
Did you hear voices on that video that we just played?
I did.
Whose voices did you hear?
Paul Murdaugh's, Maggie Murdaugh's, and Alex Murdaugh's.
Could you tell where they were located in that video? Did you get a sense of where that was?
Dog kennels.
Okay. The kennel's down at the hangar area?
That's correct.
We heard yelled out a name called Bubba. Are you familiar with Bubba?
I am.
Who's Bubba?
That'd be Paul's dog.
Okay. And what kind of dog is he?
A yellow lab.
Is he trained? Well, was he was he a house pet or a pet?
At that time, yeah.
Was he also trained to hunt or be a hunting dog or a bird dog?
That's correct.
Did Bubba have a? Well, describe Bubba. How would you describe Bubba?
Hard-headed.
Did Bubba have a thing where he liked to chase chickens?
I'd say so, yeah.
If a chicken got out of the pen, would he chase it?
That's correct.
Have you ever been there when he caught chickens?
He would chase anything.
He'll chase. Did you ever there when he caught birds though that were coming out of that coop?
I mean, he's tried. Could I say I've seen him? No.
Okay. Were you aware then that Bubba? Were you aware that Bubba would chase those chickens?
Absolutely.
And had you been aware that he'd killed chickens before by getting them? Have you ever had to wrestle anything out of Bubba's mouth or try to catch him when he doesn't want to be caught?
Tried to catch him.
And if he doesn't want to be caught, what's going to happen?
Not catching him.
Did you begin working at the law firm we've heard called PMPED?
That's correct.
When did you start working there?
I believe it was February of 2019.
Okay, and what was your job there?
I was a runner.
Runner for the law firm in general?
That's correct.
Kind of, without specifically not yet talking about the work you did for Alex, but what kind of work would you do there generally?
Be a courier for court documents to different courthouses and law offices across the state, assist paralegals and attorneys with really whatever they needed, just help around the office.
Okay. And you worked there from 2019, and when's the last time you worked there?
I want to say it was May of 21.
Okay. So May of 2021. Or
excuse me, 2022.
2022. Thank you. So you would have continued to work there through the tragic events of June 7th, 2021?
That's correct.
So you saw the upheaval at the law firm as well. You witnessed that?
That's correct.
Nathan, I'm gonna direct your attention to the weekend leading up to June 7th. Could you tell us a little bit about the any communications you would have had with Paul leading up to June 7th? Did you all talk any leading up to it?
To the best of my memory, we spoke that Saturday. I think he called me over the weekend.
Did it seem like a normal conversation?
Yes, sir.
What were y'all talking about?
He was going to Charleston, I believe, and just talking on the way.
Is that the last time you talked to Paul?
That's correct.
How were you made aware of what happened? How'd you find out?
I received a phone call from my mother the night of. Not sure how she knew, but shortly after I received a phone call from one of the law partners that told me.
And they called you because they knew you were close with Paul?
That's correct.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with another friend of mine in Allendale County.
And did you go out there that night?
I did not.
Did you attend the funeral and wake?
I did.
Is that the last time you went to Mazzell?
Yes, sir.
After these events, how did it affect you?
It was hard. Losing a really good friend and a really good person.
After these events, I think you said already, but you continued to work at the law firm?
That's correct.
How was Alex? Was he out of the office for some time leading after this event on June 7th?
That's correct.
Did he eventually start coming back into the office?
A little bit.
Did you have an opportunity or an occasion or multiple occasions to do running for Alex?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this would be before the murder?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about what Alex would have you do.
If I needed to pick up court documents from different law firms or courthouses, drive them depositions, cash checks, some of the things.
I'm sorry, you said cash checks?
That's correct.
He had you cash checks for him?
That's correct.
All right, well tell me, where would he send
Everybody
you to cash
cash
the
checks.
checks?
Palmetto State Bank.
That's why he's
What
here.
were your instructions for that?
Cash a check.
And what would you do with the money?
Take it back to his office. And
Like cash?
that's correct.
Is it in an envelope, or are you just holding it?
It was in a Palmetto State envelope.
Okay. And you would take that envelope of cash, and where would you bring it?
Back to his office.
Okay, and just hand it to him.
That's correct.
How many times did he have you cash checks like that?
Very frequently.
Very frequent?
That's correct.
Many times?
Many times.
Was there ever a time when you cashed that check and there was a room full of, has there ever been any time where you cashed the check, brought it back to Alex's office, and there was someone in his office?
That's correct.
Multiple people, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Tell us who those folks were that you would have been there when Alex is sending you to get cash, you're coming back with the cash, and there's someone sitting in his office.
There was different occasions. One particular occasion was Greg Alexander.
Who's he?
I believe he's the chief of police for the embassy.
Okay.
Corey Fleming.
Do you know Corey Fleming?
I do.
And what is he? What did he do?
He was an attorney as well.
Okay.
And Michelle's best friend.
Okay. And who else?
And Chris Wilson.
And do you know who Chris Wilson is?
I do.
Who is he?
He's an attorney in Bamberg, I believe.
When did Alex stop asking you to cash checks? What was the time frame?
I believe it was a few weeks before the murders. So
a few weeks. You've been doing this a lot, and a few weeks before the murder, he doesn't ask you to cash any more checks.
That's correct.
Did you have an opportunity, or were you assigned to assist, or let me ask you this. Do you know who Jeannie Seckinger is?
I am.
And who is she, and who was she at the time to you back in 2020, one range?
She was my immediate supervisor.
And were you ever, after the events of June 7th, were you assigned and tasked to assist her in her investigation of financial improprieties within the firm?
In some ways, yes.
All right.
Okay, I think he was basically saying who was aware that Alec was taking cash, just getting these cash deliveries all the time. And he named the chief of police. He named his friends.
All right, and continuing, you were assigned to assist Jeannie, and what kind of things were you doing in that capacity?
We would look through different cases. She would have me get cases from probate court and go through and highlight cleared checks, and if I found a discrepancy, bring it to her.
Did you understand the scope and what you were looking for? Did she kind of involve you in that?
Somewhat.
Did you figure out kind of shortly thereafter what you were looking for, or what the reason was?
I'd say so.
I'm going to direct your attention to July of 2021, specifically July 4th, or that July 4th time frame. You have that in your brain?
I do.
Did you drive Alex to the airport?
I did.
Tell us about that. Why did you drive him to the airport?
Well, at the time I was still a runner, and he asked me to give him a lift to the airport, so that's what I did.
Where was he going?
I believe he was going to the Florida Keys with Maggie's family.
Okay. So he's going on vacation to the Keys on July 4th weekend or July 4th time frame?
That's correct.
And did you in fact drive him to the airport?
That's correct.
Did you have a chance, did he say anything to you on that ride to the airport?
We talked.
Did he tell you anything about the boat case?
He did.
What did he say?
He said that he would like to clear Paul's name.
And do what, and beat the boat case?
Beat the boat case.
So now with Paul gone, he's talking about he can beat the boat case.
That's correct.
This is a month after the murder?
That's correct.
Okay. Beg the court's indulgence. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Jim.
Yes, sir.
What you got, Jim? Let's hear it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It was very important, Alex, to clear Paul's name from the accusations in the boating case, wasn't it?
I don't know.
That's what he told you, right?
That's what he said, but I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, you know that he stood behind Paul all throughout the boating case, the criminal part, right?
That's correct.
And a lot of people in the Hampton community turned their backs on Paul, didn't they?
That's correct.
You didn't, did you?
No, sir.
Alex and Maggie didn't, did they?
No, sir.
Your brother didn't, did he?
No, sir.
And are you sure it was July 4th?
The week of the 4th. That's correct.
Okay. And he was going to Florida on a vacation and visiting with Maggie's parents, Maggie's sister, brother-in-law. You understood that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you're talking about you went and got some cashing some checks with.
I think it's the
for
judge's
Alex,
chair
and
that's
sometimes
squeaking.
you'd come back, give him the cash, and you mentioned that Greg Alexander was in his office one time, Corey Fleming one time, Chris Wilson one time. You remember that?
That's correct.
I mean, what'd you do when you walk in? Just give the envelope to Alec?
Yes, sir.
you sit down and see what he did with the money?
Not at all.
Are you suggesting that he was giving Greg Alexander any of the money?
I'm not suggesting anything.
Okay. Do you know if that's what the Attorney General was trying to suggest by asking you that?
Objection, Your Honor. Sustained.
You've known Paul, you knew Paul his life for the most part, correct?
Correct.
And how old are you?
23.
And
He is
I
young.
think you described Alex and Maggie as kind of your second parents.
That's correct.
And you spent a lot of time at Moselle. You hunted with Paul. And Buster, too, I take it.
That's correct.
And you lived there at that cabin you talked about right there on the edge of Moselle Road, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And Paul's go-to guns were a .300 Blackout and the 12-gauge Benelli that you identified here in the courtroom, right?
That's correct.
But now you knew that Paul's had originally been given a .300 Blackout for Christmas that got stolen, right?
That's correct.
Did you go to the party with Paul and he had the .300 Blackout in his truck? You go in the party, come back, and it's gone?
Not exactly how it happened.
How did it happen?
We didn't realize it was missing for a few days.
Okay. And Paul would never lock his truck, would he?
No, sir.
And he would leave guns in his truck, right?
That's correct.
Did you know that .300 Blackout had been replaced?
I did not.
Okay. When did you learn that?
This trial?
During the trial?
That's correct.
But up until the trial, you never knew that it had been replaced?
No.
But you'd seen Paul use .300 Blackout you identified as his go-to gun, right?
That's correct.
And the .300 Blackout that you identified has a thermal scope, does it not?
That's correct.
And whose gun did you think got stolen? Paul's or Buster's?
I would assume Paul's.
Were you aware that the .300 Blackout, the replacement, did not have a thermal scope?
If I didn't know about the gun, then no.
So
about the gun, I don't know about
you
the
know
scope.
whether or not this is Buster's .300 Blackout sitting here in the courtroom?
That is the gun that I used at Moselle.
Okay. Now, when Paul would clean his truck out, he would take, well, let me back up. Paul normally keep guns in his truck?
That's correct.
.300 Blackout, 12 gauge, anything else?
Sometimes some pistols, but
And there were times when Paul would clean his truck out, and then he would take the guns and leave them in the shed down there by the kennels, right?
that's correct.
And sometimes he would forget that he left them down there, right?
That's correct.
And I think you described him as being careless with leaving guns around. Is that right?
I'd say so.
Okay. And he'd even left guns in your truck, right?
Correct.
Now, Paul was a guy who liked to work with his hands outside, correct?
Correct.
And he loved the Moselle property. Is that right?
I'd say so.
And he liked to work the land with equipment and plant for game management, for duck hunting and dove hunting and things like that, right?
That's correct.
And to do that, you know, he wasn't always on his phone, right? I mean, he liked to work with his hands. Is that fair to say?
Wouldn't say that altogether. Take several breaks while he's working with his hands.
Right. And and I think you've described it, he would put his phone down, and while he was doing some work, and then he'd forget where it was. He'd lose it. He'd go back and find it later.
That's correct.
That happened fairly regularly, didn't it?
I'd say so.
And you listened to the video that was played. Did you hear water running in the background?
I'm not sure.
What kind of work would Paul do down there by the kennels?
What do you mean?
I mean, you know, would he, if Bubba or the other dog had messed in their dog run, would he clean it up?
I'd say so.
Okay. And if he did that, you know, perhaps he'd put his phone down while he did that so it wouldn't get wet?
I would assume so.
Yeah. It's a reasonable thing to do, right?
I'd say so.
Okay. Now, you were close with Alex, Maggie, Paul, and Buster. That you and your brother were, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were able to observe Alex's relationship with Paul, right?
Yes, sir.
How would you describe it?
I'd say it was a very loving relationship.
Okay. And okay. And how would you describe Alex's relationship with Maggie?
I would describe it the same.
1 second, Your Honor. To your knowledge, was after the boating accident, did Paul receive threats of any kind?
That's correct.
What kind of threats were you aware of?
Just threats that he would say people would text him, or different social media platforms, but
right.
Didn't really go into very vivid detail or anything.
I'm sorry?
Didn't go into very vivid detail about anything. He just...
And his circle of friends got really close, tight after the boating accident, and you and your brother, I mean, he talked to you all frequently, did he not?
That's correct.
Okay. And then he would go to Charleston to visit with friends down there, correct?
That's correct.
Because he didn't feel comfortable, you know, in the Hampton area where he lived because of the boating accident. Is that right?
He stayed away.
Yes, sir. That's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Nathan, you were asked about threats to Paul. Did you ever know that Maggie received any threats?
I was not aware of any, no.
I'm going to ask you, counsel asked you a little bit about the Kennel area and asked if you'd heard water. Are you familiar with how generally the kennels were cleaned? Were you there when the kennels would be cleaned?
Sometimes.
Okay. Generally speaking, describe the kennel for me. What was actually inside of one of the kennel nuts?
The kennel had a doghouse, beds in the doghouse, and just kind of like a concrete pad.
And if you're going to rinse off the kennels, what would you do with the dog bed?
You would put it on top of the dog house.
Okay, and why was that?
So it wouldn't get wet.
And then, what would you just leave the dog? Would the family or if you were cleaning it, leave the dog bed up on the top of the kennel, or are they going to bring it down when the kennel, after a certain point in time?
You wait for it to dry and then bring the bed.
If the family, if you were down there or anyone was down there at the kennel area and it was nighttime, would you turn the lights on?
Yes, sir.
Are there sufficient lights out there to make it a fairly well lit area if all the lights are on?
I'd say so.
If you're at the main house and the lights are on down at the kennels, can you see that area from the house?
Yes.
Would it be very visible to you to see that there's lights on down there?
Yes.
Would the fans, are there fans in the kennel area?
There are.
Would the fans be left on generally for the dogs?
Generally.
And again, if anyone was down there working, would the lights be turned on?
Yes, sir.
That's it. No further questions.
Anything further?
Not sure if they want to go here.
Counsel asked you a question about Paul's phone usage. I think he said Paul uses his hands and what he would do with his phone. Do you recall if Paul did have to use his phone, would he put it in any of his pockets?
If he was working outside in that capacity, the pocket he would put it in would be his back pocket.
And that was the common thing he would do almost nearly every time?
That's correct.
Nothing further.
That's the first witness to testify which
Anything
pocket
further?
he put the phone in.
Just a moment, sir.
Your Honor, thank you.
You may step down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this day. Please, we'll have a good weekend, and we'll see you 9:30 Monday morning.
We got a few pieces of information there that that we did not get before. So we got a little bit. I'm going to turn the well, I'm not going to turn the audio off yet. I would just want to see if there's going to be any business. I'm not going to let the beep happen. Fingers on the button, though. Butt dialing, could have. Possibility we put it in the back pocket. Bars and tones, we'll be careful. It's not going to happen. Let's hang out just for a second and see if the judge has any business with the prosecution or defense before he lets them go for the day. It'll just take a minute for the jury to clear the courtroom here.
Everybody be seated, please. Anything before we adjourn for the
Alex
weekend?
Stollett.
Your Honor, purely for scheduling purposes, a week from Monday is President's Day. It's a state holiday. Are we going to have court or not?
Do not anticipate having court on President's Day.
I'm sorry.
I do not anticipate having court on President's Day. We also will adjourn hopefully no later than 4:30 next Thursday.
4:30 just for that day?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday, but we be in court on Friday.
Yes.
I'm just want to make sure. And I wondered if the Attorney General had any more refined position on, I mean, things seem to be moving quickly.
As I stated yesterday, we're shooting for Wednesday, and we're still on track for that, Your Honor.
Begin to fly people in next week. So you're going to adjourn at 4:30 on Thursday, but and not have court the following Monday. That's
yes, sir.
Okay. That's great information.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Very good. We're in recess. Yes.
All right, I think that's everything. I'm going to kill the mics here now. I'm not seeing any sound coming from it anymore. 80s Music Man, do you still have your beep job? It wasn't that bad today. There wasn't any cussing.
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?
It's a bit of a cliffhanger. We're left here. I don't know who they're. I think they're starting to draw some lines. They're starting to connect some dots with these witnesses. This witness gave a little more information about Paul's habits than we heard from anyone else. This guy, he lived with Paul on the property on Moselle. He had a little more understanding about the dog kennels, about the lights, the fans. I'm not sure how that's going to come into play. I don't remember hearing any information about the lights and the fans at the time of the murder or the state they were in. But let's see. What pocket did Alex say Paul's phone was in? He said back pocket. And I would assume it's probably not the same pocket as his wallet if he carried a wallet. That would just be my guess. But one of the back pockets. It's easier to fall out, in my mind, if he were to... So the judge is just having a good chat. There's no audio coming in. But I think he's done. Have a good weekend, Your Honor. It's easier in my mind to see the phone falling out of his pocket as he fell. If we think that he's got it in his back pocket. Can we do a quick summary of today, please? Oh, man. I don't know if I can. The day started off with Tinsley, Mark Tinsley, being cross-examined by the defense, and it was a nothing. It was a zero. They waved the white flag, they surrendered and said, we're not going to ask any questions because if we do, we're just going to get whooped by the answers. So they didn't ask him anything, not even about the donation, the GoFundMe donation that we heard about the end of the day yesterday. They just said nothing, and he got a pass, really. So that was cool. We had we had a caretaker. Somebody has to tell me the names of all the people, and I can rattle off what happened, but we're good. The bars and tone is happening right now, but I've already shut off the sound. We're good. Are we doing something Monday? We will be here on Monday. Mary Murphy, I heard differently. We're going to be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's going to be a short day. We'll be back on Friday, and then next Monday there will be no trial. Newman has a dinner date with his wife Thursday. It sounds like he had some plans somewhere. Did you see Dick look to Alex and Jim talking and essentially tell them to quit? It was after the testimony about the lights being on at the kennels. The bit about the check cashing, that was quite interesting with his last witness. This guy was a runner. He's only 23 years old now, but he worked for a couple of years at the law office of PMPED, and he was a runner. He'd go run to the court, grab filings, drop off filings, whatever it is, from different law firms back and forth. It's sort of like an auto parts driver or a pizza delivery type thing. Only he was running things both directions. He'd run and pick something up, or he'd run and drop something off. And so he'd do that. But one of the things they had him do, that Alex had him do specifically, was run to Palmetto State Bank with a check and cash it. I was hoping they would ask for the amounts of the checks, like how much the cash was. I'm surprised that didn't come through, because he would be there. He would have had to drop it off and receive the cash and basically sign for it, right? To say, yeah, I've received the cash, you get the check type of thing. I'm surprised they didn't talk about the amounts of cash. And then they did open the door for this, and you heard the defense step in and ask the question, but say, who was there when you brought the cash back in the office? And he named a couple people. He named, I think, Chris Wilson. He named the police chief, one other guy. I can't remember the third guy's name, but just people who were there in the office when he was showing up with bundles of cash. And it happens, and this just was the normal thing for him to do. He didn't see anything wrong with that. The kid that happens to be there when the gun was stolen knows intimate detail Paul wouldn't have on his would have its phone if he was hosing the fans, would mask the noise. Wouldn't have the phone if he was hosing the fans, would mask the noise. I don't think the fans are that loud. I don't think that, I don't know, I'd have to look at the fans. Maybe we could watch that video. I'll watch it over the weekend or something. Do you think I should go back and watch the day? It was that good. Yes, Jojo, watch it on high speed, but then when something interesting comes, slow it down and rewind. I would watch the beginning at slow speed. That was really fun. But then we had some slow parts and some quick parts as well, some action. Leaving guns loaded and vehicles always having a loaded gun is not unusual in the big spread ranch hunting area. Kids are raised differently regarding guns. That's why I don't believe Alex Murdaugh had to go get a gun. All right, I'm missing the point. What was the point, Goodman? Let's see. That was the quietest the courtroom has ever been. Great defense strategy. Let that sink in over the weekend. Got such a vibe from that kid. Let's see. Well, this kid didn't even know the scope wasn't thermal. Let's see. This kid didn't even know the scope wasn't thermal if the gun in the courtroom was his bro's, but he knew it would be there in the unlocked truck. No, Nicole, I heard different testimony on that. He knew that, and he'd used the thermal scope, and he testified to that. As far as the replacement gun, he wasn't aware that the gun had been replaced that was stolen, the tan gun. And then when the attorney said, do you know if it had a thermal scope? He said, how would I know if there was a scope if I didn't know about the gun? That's what I heard on that one. I think the entire where was his phone is speculation. Who knows what Paul did with his phone in this particular case? It's the most boring day until now. There was a lawyer fight early on that we did have some a little bit of a cat fight going on. I love how they call Alex a family man. The prisons are filled with men who used to be called family men. When your world is caving in around you, don't seek help. Family man means nothing. Wizard of Ego says, I like Nathan. Okay, I'll watch over the weekend. Great, JoJo. Let me know what you think. Comment on there. I'll try to watch and reply if I can. Who would be able to catch Bubba and get him in the cage? Get him in the cage all under 3 minutes. Think about that. That gives me great pause. Who would be able to? Well, we heard Alec calling him on the video. I don't know. What type of shorts or pants was Paul wearing? Important to tell which pocket his phone was in. Back pocket of jeans for sure. I think we see his legs in the video, or the dog kennel video. I think it is jeans. May we have a poll, please? Debbie, what do you want in your poll? It's end of day. I can do a quick poll for you. Let me know what you want here. We'll start a poll. RA also watched Triple X, and oh my gosh, you have to hear the close today. Scary, regarding gang fears for all. Yeah, that one is a crazy one as well, going on at the same time. Keep reading. This is good. Keep reading. I have to go further back. Nicole. Hang on. This is the kid that literally knows details only someone at the scene would know. The courtroom was so quiet. Oh. I don't know. That's so you're basically saying the defense presented, and I didn't get that feel. So I didn't jump to that conclusion mentally when they were doing it. But you're saying basically the defense presented the questions in such a way that defense is definitely suggesting this kid did it. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. He's so unemotional except when he snapped at the accusation. You're saying he was more than a runner. They're definitely making this kid suspect number one. I'll have to go back and watch that with that in mind, because I'll tell you, I didn't get that feel when I watched it the first time. But it's interesting to think about it now. I'll go back and watch it. What do you think about the picture I sent about the middle finger? Did he do it on purpose? Jojo, talking about Buster, either he had a hangnail on his middle finger and his thumb just had to be extended to really get at it. It did look intentional. He looked like he was making eye contact. It was probably in the direction of the witness stand. So I think it was probably further down. Man, it takes me forever to scroll here. Let's see. Did I get everything? You might have to retype it, Nicole. I'm sorry. It's so far back there. I get lost in the chat. Hopefully I read the right ones. Let's see. So yeah, I think Buster did it intentionally. He did pass the book up as well. There may have been some noise issues. Somebody says there was some kicking over a water bottle or something that might have been intentional. Anyway, the judge has told him to scoot back. The defense is mad that the family has to sit further back because it's important to them for the jury sees that he has family support there in the courtroom. And so that's why you're seeing repeatedly now, also today, just like yesterday, the defense saying, oh, here's the family in the courtroom. Hey, stand up, way back there. Oh, type thing. That's why they're bringing that up. Defense doesn't like the fact that they have to be scooted back, but it was their own behavior that caused it. And if they keep it up, the judge will kick him out of the courtroom. Visions of those kids, all those kids running errands in Goodfellas. Seriously, who in their right mind just cashes big fat checks all the time at the bank and just stacks of cash? It just doesn't make sense. Everybody deposits checks. They don't cash them. State calls the chicken to the stand. Bark that dog, says the chicken. That's my point, RA. Two of the people who could have gotten Bubba in the cage that fast are not among us anymore. Nathan and Rogan Gibson were both very solid. The friends were really good on the stand. Maybe Alex was told not to say anything after he witnessed their deaths. Otherwise, Buster is next. Good speculation. Alex Murdaugh claimed he turned dead Paul over, probably using his phone, causing his phone to fall from his shirt pocket, says Sherry. Nathan may have taken some money, does not make him the killer. I was wondering if they were going to ask if he ever got a bonus for doing any of these deliveries. Finally, the defense presents an alternate unaliver. Wondered if he was more involved. I'm off to create a map of the cell data from today. I will send you to the burner. Wish me luck. Vixen, good luck. I know this is a serious undertaking. If you realize that it's not going to become what you think, don't think you have to burn the midnight oil trying to make that happen. You're working with short stacks of information and trying to make a very detailed picture. Didn't get the feel about that last witness either, says Teresa. Did you get the picture of my dog on your burner phone? Says Always on Go. I got so many pictures of dogs. We still have more. I might have to do another pet day on Friday, but I'm not sure how many pictures we can show. The kid was so close to Paul, unemotional, knew all kinds of details about the location, the lights, the fans, the gun. He would be able to get the dog in the kennel. Debbie, I missed what you wanted to poll about. Let's see. Guilty, not guilty, hung jury. Okay. Alex Murdaugh. Oops. If I spell it right, it'll work better. Guilty. Oops. We're not going to do the Scottish version of not proven. Okay, here we go. There is your poll, Debbie. It's up. Make sure, remind me to show you the results before I wrap everything up. Do you think we'll see Blanca on the stand again? I don't think so. I don't know. It depends what defense does. I don't know what their strategy is. You never did answer me about my dog, says Susan Blankenship. I missed the initial one, Susan. I do apologize. If I probably got your picture.
Today was fun in chat and making RA laugh. Rooster, hamburger, cheese, mushroom, camel, sparkling heart, donut, lotion.
AJ, thank you very much for the super chat. Whatever voice that was perfectly understandable. I've got to dig through and find out which voice that is, and then select that as the permanent one instead of this random foreign language translation. Susan, I apologize. I don't know what question you had about the dog. I'll try to answer it. Great weekend, boys and girls. Thank you, Georgia, for being here. Was the previous witness good for the prosecution? I think they got some important stuff in, but it looks like the defense might have gained some serious ground as well. Let's see. You asked 3 times. I'm sorry, Susan. I wish I could explain how difficult it is to find chats on my screen, and it jumps every time it updates. I'll scroll back here and see if I can see. How long ago did you ask? I'm just not seeing it on the screen. If you ask one more time, I'll watch. I promise. I promise. I promise. I've scrolled all the way back through my chat and I'm not seeing it. Let's see. Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for being here. I hit guilty, but think the jury will be hung, says Carol Martin. I think he's 100% guilty, but the jury will actually convict him. But will the jury actually convict him? That I don't know. Cake Star, thanks for being here. Love your people's animals et al. I need a not decided. That's why we try to wait on the poll just a little bit. Does the jury, who's asking this, does the jury decision have to be unanimous? Not if it's a hung jury, but other ones, if they reach a verdict, yes, it would. Whether it's not guilty or guilty, they would need to be unanimous on that. The week went fast, at least on each individual charge. You might have, it seems unreasonable, but you might have a guilty on one verdict and a not guilty on another. They could be unanimous on both. That's a possibility. I doubt it in this case. There's if you're going to get a guilty on one, you're going to get guilty on both. And I'd probably say the same on hung and not guilty as well. So just skipped a bunch there. Sorry. Does the jury have to be unanimous? I just got that one. Thanks for the great day, says Bite Me. Nathan did not want to be there. I don't think he had anything to do with the murders. Need to be glamping, says I did not believe Alex Murdaugh is above murdering his family. He's more fond of his firstborn. He didn't pull the trigger, but might have had a hand in it, says Jojo. Yeah, but that's the jury can't say that. The jury has to just choose one of the three, right? Prosecution has not presented a case. I think the verdict will be hung jury currently. I think Alec committed the murders. Link to mousepad. I can't find it, says Ann. I'll see if I can pull that up before we wrap up here. Susan, I'm looking for your text. If somebody sees me or sees the text about the question about the dog or can direct me to it, please let me know. I'd like to answer a question. I think you did it. I don't think they've proven it at all, says Beautiful Waterfall. I think the jury will need, this is Ready Freddy GG, I think the jury will need a lot more details proving he was there to consider him guilty. I think hung jury, says Debbie, but hit guilty and I requested the poll. Nathan's a police officer. I think he did not want to be part of the prosecution. Police officers don't like testifying when they're not talking about their own case like that. I mean, he's not being called in as a police officer. He's been called in as a friend of the family. I wouldn't want to testify in any court case. I guess I want to say police officers don't want to testify. That's me. I wouldn't want to testify. That would probably be a better way to put that. Wizard of Ego, he did not do it, but he knows who did. Hung jury must fight the jokes. Lovely people of Attic Land, have a wonderful weekend. You too, Ritz. Can Susan ask again? Please do, Susan, if you're here. I do apologize. I hate that I miss people's questions. I try to get as many as I can. I see you not guilty because I need more than just money as a motive, says JoJo. Marcy C says, RA, you're my go-to every day. Weekends are too long away from you. Marcy, thank you very much. Hopefully you do have a great weekend. We will be here back on Monday. Angelina Knox, thank you very much as well. Good to have you here. Let's see. I'm still not seeing Susan's comment. I feel bad. Let me see if I can pull up the mouse pad link. Just 1 minute here. This was the wrong one. Wait for it. Wait for it. Must be very hard to testify for the state, but are friends with the family. They've only proven Alex stole money, not proven the 2 murders. I agree. It's hard to type eBay when my keyboard, the B button, does not work. Do you know that? It keeps updating. Okay, I'm going to get the mouse pad. Here's the mouse pad link. Just a second. All right, that's the link to the mouse pad right there in chat. Thanks for asking for that. That's this mouse pad right here that I'm using. It works beautifully. It quiets the noise from my mouse a great deal. Artwork is by Stephen Lee, a good supporter of the program. He's been on since the very early days. He works nights, so he's often not able to join us during the day and catches up other times. If it's a hung jury, can the state give it another try? No, I don't think so. I don't think they will. Firstborn namesake with Buster. Obviously that's not his name, just the nickname. Knockstream no longer streams, says Rico Reddick. I've seen they sort of went away from that. There was a while where they would not stream video, and then some of the judges would and some wouldn't. I have not seen them stream in a little while, so they might have not liked showing up on some of the videos. She sent me dog pics. I apologize. I will look for them. I have a ton of dog pics, Susan. I wanted to see if you got my dog pics. Let me do a quick check. I've got so many numbers on here. If I haven't tagged you yet, I've probably got 50 different posts on here of dog pictures with just phone numbers, and I don't want you to post your phone number on here. But you'd have to, if you text the burner phone and tell me which one you are, I'll let you know if I got the pictures. Will that work? So just thank you, Weather Watch, and thank you everybody for letting me know about that. Let's see. Different charges are always open. Just double jeopardy is, not a thing. Hung jury, they could retry, right? They could redo it. Add Krispy Kreme to pickle pics. The last text I've got was from Amber. I haven't seen anything yet from Susan again. Post the pic in the Facebook group. It might be easier to find. No pressure, RA. Okay, there we go. Yes, I've got two. I've got two pics from you, Susan. Can you reply with your name? Because if you put your name on there, I can enter you in my burner phone directory in the black book, and that way, if you ask me for something, I can find you by your name, and it's a lot easier to find the pictures. But we'll see if we can show the long-haired. Yes, we see him. I've got one sleeping and one awake. I've got both pictures. We'll probably do another pet roll call maybe Friday morning. Or maybe if we end early on Thursday, as the judge is planning, we might end the day with it. We'll do that. Check the burner, says Nicole. Let me take a quick peek. Did you send me something, Nicole? I'm looking. I can't. Oh, we've got to bring the jury thing. Thank you, Susan. I'll go ahead and tag you. I just got that. Okay, well, I've got a lot of work to do on the burner phone. I'm going to be working late tonight, just catching up on all this. Hung jury can be retried on same charges. Yes, that I thought that afterwards. Initially, I misspoke on that. The state does not want to do that. It's a great cost, and it basically wastes everybody's time on this one. I'm sending you pictures of my dog because I didn't see him on the stream. Okay, but make sure you also send your name with the text. So if you sent me a text and a picture of your dog, text your name as well so I can match your name up in the chat. It'll make it a little easier for me. First day in Myrtle Beach, we get Krispy Kremes. I spent a week in the condo, but I had the KKs, Krispy Kremes. My dog is too ugly. I'll spare you the pics. Ugly dogs are cute too. They're awesome. RA is acting like the kids who cash the checks. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm innocent. I had no part in this. Let's see. I should send a pic of the baby bulldog now. She's about 40 pounds heavier. That's not a baby anymore. That's just a full-grown bulldog, a tank. Have a great weekend, Michelle. Thank you for being here. Mods are fantastic. They do great work. But you guys sure make it easy on them. All right. I'm not sure. I'll have to scroll through a lot of numbers. A lot of numbers to find you. I've got a 7481. There might be more 7483s. If you can just text me your name, that might be easiest. I've got so many, and the burner phone is frozen now. It's being overloaded. Sunshine Sunflower sent me a text a few days ago about sticker merch. I have not done anything on that yet. I don't know what to do, honestly. I think I'm probably going to go the route. I like Stephen Lee's artwork, but I'm probably going to try to have my own logo created that's a little simpler, that could be smaller on a shirt, and it could be smaller and still be, have all the detail. This one, if you compress it too small, it's just too busy. So I'm looking at that, and it's just, I'm just busy live streaming every day. I work all day, guys. You know this. You see me here, so I'm just falling behind. Have a great weekend. A weather watch. Let's see. We'll have to talk weather watch this weekend for sure, or if not tonight. Everyone at the same time. Recovery Addict to your name. Text Recovery Addict to your name. Thank you for that, Thomas. I thank you. Okay, let's play some music. This week was like riding a roller coaster. See you all Monday. Yes, have a good Monday. Please stay safe. Have some fun. Okay, I hear you, but as soon as I end this chat, I lose that, and then I don't know where you are. I don't know where you are. I'll look. I might already have your name in here. Let me check. 7493. don't have it. It doesn't show up. There it is. There it is. Gotcha. I got the text just now. A big, huge text from you, but it doesn't have your name on it. Okay, sounds good. We need a police chase. Please, none of you guys do it. None of you guys do it. That'll just get you in trouble. It's not worth it. I'll look for one and see what we can find. Let's see. Why is that not working? There we go. All right. Okay, everybody, thank you. When you go home tonight, please hug the people you love. Smile at somebody, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again, which right now we're scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Sorry, I've just got so much on the screen. I have to show the poll before I leave, or else Debbie would come through the burner phone and strangle me. So there it is. Guilty 59%, hung jury 32%, not guilty 7%. You guys have a great weekend. I love you all. Thank you for being here. We'll catch you later on the flip side. We'll see you.
Alex stole it as well.